It is an honor to welcome you all this morning for the launch of mySATHI platform at India International Center. A platform that has emerged from simple thought to a powerful belief that every student deserves clarity, direction, and a fair chance to succeed. So also to facilitate universities, institutions of higher education, the industry and corporates to have deep insights into candidates that can walk in their corridors. This is going to be a half-a-day program. It is not only about launching a digital platform, it also introduces a new way of thinking, a way that places students at the heart, at the core of the progress. It prepares young minds not only for their degrees, but for their life, leadership, and facilitating them to contribute to the larger humanity. Before we begin our first session this morning, let us pause to reflect on the purpose behind mySATHI. mySATHI is more than a tool. As you all know, Sathi in Hindi means companion, though it stands for Sathi is an acronym for Scholastic Aptitudes Test for Higher Education Institution, and entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth. But it is a readiness companion for every learner. It is designed to help students discover who they are, where they stand, and what they can become. It enables young people to move forward with confidence, and it empowers institutions to see potential beyond marks and ranks. In doing so, mySATHI seeks to bridge aspiration with opportunity, promise with preparedness, shaping a generation that is truly ready for the ever-changing future. It is my pleasure to invite Sujata to take the stage and deliver the welcome address.
All right. So, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Srini. So, it is indeed a privilege to welcome all of you to the unveiling of mySATHI at a moment when higher education in India and the workforce readiness is poised for a very meaningful shift. From selecting students by rote and rank to recognizing readiness, to recognizing the readiness potential and its purpose. So today marks the culmination of over a year of deep research, dialogue, and design, bringing together educators, psychometricians, technologists, and policy thinkers, driven by a shared belief that quality in higher education begins with the right entry. So we are especially honored that this unveiling is blessed by eminent leaders from academia, industry, policy, and schools, whose presence affirms that mySATHI is not just a platform, but a collective commitment to reform. mySATHI represents our optimism for a future where students are understood more holistically, institutions admit with greater confidence, and India steps forward as a producer of global standards in talent and assessment, and not merely a consumer. So mySATHI is not just one more test. It is a shift in how we understand readiness, so decisions are guided by deeper evidence and not just by a single score or a single day. And at the heart of this is trust, rigorous validation, transparent methods, and a commitment to fairness, so every student feels seen and every institution can decide with confidence. And this is also about widening the opportunity, because talent exists in every background. So mySATHI is designed to recognize potential wherever it is found, so most students can access pathways that truly fit them. And we invite you to shape this with us through pilots, research partnerships, and adoption. So this becomes a collaborative national movement and not just a launch. So as Alvin Toffler reminds us, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that's exactly what mySATHI is designed to recognize. Students who are ready, not just for exams, but learning itself. And as we unveil mySATHI today, we do so with joy, humility, and expectation that this initiative will spark new conversations, new collaborations, and a renewed trust in the power of fair, inclusive, higher education and workforce readiness. So over the next few hours, you will hear more about mySATHI journey, its vision, and the research behind it, and also the roadmap ahead from stalwarts across academia, policy, and industry. Thank you for joining us this morning. Please enjoy the program and the conversations it sparks. Welcome.
Thank you, Sujatha, for that warm and thoughtful welcome. You have beautifully set the tone for a day that is about purpose, partnership, and possibilities. To take us deeper into the journey, the vision, and the spirit behind mySATHI, may I now invite Satyanarayanan R., founder of CL Educate, and also initiator of mySATHI. Satya, a leader who has shaped the aspirations of millions of students across the country. Satya, please come on stage.
Hi, good morning. While this is coming up, it's a half-a-day program, and we are all very greedy. So we want to fill it in with all that you can fill it in with. So one of the outcomes of that, fortunately for me, was we made this address originally was a 20-minute address. Subbu sir made, let's make it short, 8 minutes. So it's an 8 minutes lightning address. If you can't pass on a message in 3 minutes, there's no point even talking. So I hope we'll be able to do. So what I'm going to do is, my time has already started though. So, this is a place where our daughter dances almost every other week. So I kind of almost, as a matter of mental conditioning, my shoes go off on their own when I come on this stage. First of all, thank you very much. We have unbelievable stalwarts, and actually this is actually in my head is not a launch. This is expanding the core well-wishers, core architects of mySATHI from about 25 to 200. And as I can kind of scan my eyes right across the room, most of us we have known for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. So you're here to become a part of mySATHI journey, and I'm merely calling it as unveiling it from a group of 25 to a group of 250. Okay? Next slide, please. I have only 4 slides. I'll only give the context and a very broad perspective, and let more speaking happen from Subbu sir, PPC, and so on. ठीक है? अच्छा, टेंशन नहीं. ये मेरा वाला नहीं है. ये रिसर्च वालों का है. हमारे जैसे वालों के लिए इतना dense slide नहीं हो सकता है. Yes, this is mine. You see, every story has always a start. And this mySATHI story began at this point in time. And about 18 months ago, as CL Educate, we had this wonderful opportunity to acquire what I believe is one of the very fundamental digital public infrastructures of our country. And I believe we were very fortunate when we acquired the NSE IT, the subsidiary of National Stock Exchange, which does about 10 million assessments, which has distributions across 237 cities. And without spending a rupee, our NSEIT team can do about 35 lakh assessments in a year. And they have the capability to do assessments in 700 districts, 3,000 colleges. This came to us. We were just too fortunate. And that's where the journey started. Okay? And when the journey started, we said that we are a services company on that side as NSEIT. We are an education assessments design and education delivery company on this side as career launcher. What can we do to move ahead? That's where the journey started. And I'll go to the next slide. And we said that first of all, we need to create a team that can imagine a breakthrough solution. दिल में भड़ास तो 10-15 साल से था मुझ में कि there are some things that are waiting to be done in the realm of education, assessment, talent readiness. We were playing a little bit in the perfunctory. We were playing a little bit in the adjacency. We were not in the core. And that's where the journey started. I feel so fortunate, so blessed that we have two stalwarts who were very quick in our invitation. First one is Subbu sir, as we call him with all the love and affection, R. Subramaniam. His name always has spelt a lot of good positive attributes. I will not go deep into that today. Then PPC, one of the most loved KGPites in the world, I can say that. PPC joined us to guide us in the realm of assessment sciences, technology, integrating AI into it. The passion he brings in is unbelievable. And then we did not stop there. Because I think what we have set on to do is like a decadal journey. There's nothing to be achieved in 4 quarters. For that, we also wanted to get the finest people across domains, across geographies to come and contribute to us. So if you scan your eyes across the screen, you will find people, eminent names, Professor Sadagopan, Janat Shah. We have people from ETS nominees from the US, from Australia, from Indian schools. A bunch of them are sitting here today. I just am kind of not taking the time to introduce many of them on the workforce side. So these about 25 people have given everything pro bono in the last 18 months. And that was one absolute, clear, uncluttered thinking that Subbu sir had when we invited him to come and become the chairperson of mySATHI Foundation. He's saying that this is such a world-changing thought that there can't be short-term commercials to it. So we created a mySATHI Foundation. Subbu sir is the chairperson of that. This is the team. And I am saying it in the context of all of you today. This, in my head, is invitation of all of you to join this, because this has to go from 25 or 30 people to 250 people for it to continue to explore its potential. Forget about execution. That's going to take decades. Next slide, please. It is scary, but if something is not scary, it is not big enough. People scoffed at us when perhaps someone like a Nandan Nilekani imagined, or whoever imagined an Aadhaar. When UPI, if India is beating the credit cards of the world at such low costs, people scoffed that it is not possible. People scoffed at the mobile movement of India, not just Geo, but Geo moment happened. I think there is a Aadhaar moment waiting to happen in the world of readiness. So today we are kind of opening our minds to a new world called world of readiness. It's not content, it's not technology, it is not teaching, it is not curriculum. They are all components. But is the child ready to go to college? Is the youth 21 is ready to go to a PhD, or ready to go to a job, or ready to go and work or set up a startup? That's the movement that we are unveiling today. This is what my fond hope and effort is. Going to the last slide. This is the opportunity, or this is the world that is awaiting somebody to say, I'll try and do it. 60,000 higher ed institutions, 1,200 universities. The left-hand side is just India. Okay? However, and that's why you'll find we have High Commissioner from Sri Lanka here. I make an effort to use the word, to add Your Excellency. We have Ambassador from Kenya joining us today. We have a couple of very eminent foreign service officials. Venu is here, Amit is here. They're all retired IFS officers who have seen the world, and they are part of our advisory board, and they're helping us have conversations with the world outside of India. My belief is that mySAThi at 500 rupees, compare it with an SAT at 18,000 rupees. Can we do a 7x, 10x value generation at 500 rupees for an Indian student or Indian parent, and do a few million exams in the next 5 to 7 years? But assessment is not the goal. Do a few more things and then do the readiness. So you will hear a lot more about it. That's my last slide. I think the next slide is shifting from a test prep company or an assessments company or a marketing company or a technology company. That's not what we are here for. And just to take a 10-second closure, when I personally started the journey in 95, when I was selling pharmaceutical products, the reason I gravitated to it was, what I am doing from morning till night, what is the most valuable thing I would do in the world for my existence? And in my head, the answer was absolutely crystal clear. It is about the youth, the human potential. That journey continues. We are simply changing gears and opening a new chapter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Satya, for your thought-provoking start, dwelling deeper into mySAThi. May now invite Chairperson of mySAThi Foundation, Mr. R. Subramaniam sir, to come on stage. He has been the brain behind the evolution of mySAThi. May I have you here, sir? Chairperson's address.
Great to see all of you here, so many eminent persons in this auditorium. Greetings to all of you on this Vasant Panchami. This is the time of the year when great educational initiatives are launched. It is probably just a coincidence, but it augurs well for this initiative, which basically tries to bring a necessary transformation in the higher education ecosystem. Friends, the country is dreaming of a Vikasit Bharat. We have also set a deadline for it. And we have also set some very ambitious targets, which probably no country's history has witnessed. 8 times increase in the GDP, and then becoming a major global power. This dream will be a reality only if we can ensure that our human resources are adequately trained, equipped, are creative, innovative, and hardworking. We have seen in the history of the world some major leap forwards, whether it is the Southeast Asian tigers which have transferred themselves from a low-income country to middle-income countries within a very short span, or the leapfrogging of China. So friends, the moment has come for us to dream big. And that dream is possible only if we can ensure that the people who are coming into the system are fully equipped to create products, processes, and new knowledge. So the emphasis or the responsibility for bringing in this major transformation in this country lies squarely on the higher education system. Today, our system, except for the cream of institutions, a few cream institutions, largely still follows the colonial system. In the colonial system, you enter the college, get a degree, look for a job. You don't get a job, appear for competitive examinations. You are not trying to do anything of your own. You are trying to be an employer. You are trying to look for a job. You are not expected to be creative. You have to take orders. That is the sort of orientation that our higher education system largely, I'm not talking about IITs or ISERs or IIITs, NITs, I'm not talking about that. There is a huge change in that ecosystem. But largely, the cream institutions constitute only just 5% of our total student population. 95% is actually in still a colonial mode. So here the cognitive processes, the responsibility to create new knowledge is not felt. Nor is it considered, if you're not having that, it is not considered as a crime. But friends, higher education system has to create new knowledge. It is the school system which transmits knowledge. Higher education system has to generate knowledge. That has to happen if your dreams are to get fulfilled. And that will happen only if your cognitive processes are given primacy. Unfortunately, our entire ecosystem is based on compliance. You listen to me, don't ask questions, study well, get good marks. This is the orientation that parents give to the students. Beta, 100% kyun nahi aaya? Is a normal question which teachers ask even to the brilliant students. So the focus is on making him cram more, get good marks in the exam. Such kind of people cannot create this Vikasit Bharat, friends. It requires people who can create new knowledge. So cognitive processes, critical thinking, creativity, logical reasoning, problem solving, communications, and collaborative work. These are things which are required for the 21st century. Yuval Noah Harari, you would have all read him, famous historian and also a person who actually taken the thinking forward in the recent times, has said that whatever you teach in these institutions will be irrelevant by the time you come out of it. What you see, the world that they're going to see after coming out of this institution is going to be completely different. And therefore, don't try to teach them too many things. Teach them how to learn. How to learn. And learning will happen only if they master these 4 C's. That is, critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. So the concept of a 4 C's that mySATHI has taken, we want to thank Dr. Harari for bringing this out so very, very clearly and then popularizing this concept of 4 C's. So we basically looked at whether these 4 C's are emphasized in our education system or not. And we found very, very negative answers across. So this particular exam, friends, is to, we started this mySATHI journey by saying that can we really look at a scholastic aptitude test as an entry point into the higher education system? Not end point, entry point. Because we want to see whether the student is prepared to receive the higher education and transition from a guided learning to self-learning. So this test basically looks at the fundamentals which the student should have before he can think of getting into the higher education system. So we started this journey as a concept, and I'm really thankful to Satya. I mean, what a wonderful person he is in terms of his drive, energy, enthusiasm, and marshalling resources. Professor Partha Pratim Chakravarti, the person whom the entire government really looked at him whenever there are new ideas that are required. And he has always come up with things which the country is proud of. There are so many things, I don't need to recap. Many of you know him, everybody loves him. So Partha Pratim Chakravarti has come in and said that, okay, this is possible, we will make it possible. And we will create an exam which India should be proud of, which will be India's global product. mySATHI will be India's global product. Because we want to create a test which is adaptive, which is scientific, which is objective, which is standardized, and which is valid in testing the cognitive abilities. It will be domain neutral, so you don't need to be a mathematician to answer a mySATHI. It is the basic that is required, basic cognitive ability is required in order to receive education, whether you may be in open university or you may be in IIT. But you must have the basics which are required, and that's what we are going to test. And this test, of course, will be a great tool for the higher educational institutions for two reasons. One, are we admitting the right type of students into the higher education, into my institution? This is the question which we want to answer through this test. Second thing is, the students who are already with me, how are they placed in terms of their cognitive abilities? Is there something I can do better in order to ready them for the life outside the university? Can we really look at, for example, if collaboration is a big issue? Actually, collaboration is a huge issue for most Indian students coming out of there, because individually they are really good. So if collaboration is a problem, if Professor Sandhu is sitting here, he heads a huge university. So if it is possible that 20% of his students are lacking in these collaboration abilities. If I can identify them correctly, probably I can structure a program for such people, so that by the time they come out of this university, they come out with all 4 cognitive abilities which are required, so that they will be better valued in the job market and also in the education market and the life as a whole. So this is therefore a tool which will be beneficial for the universities, both at the time of admission and also in terms of assessing their students as they are taking education in their institutions and probably as they exit. Friends, we don't want this to be just a test. We want this to be a first step towards spreading this awareness towards problem solving, critical thinking, what NEP has repeatedly stated. NEP 2020 has repeatedly stated at many places that the education system has to change with focus on critical thinking, problem solving abilities. So we want this to be a starting point of a journey, and this journey will continue both in the forward linkage that is going into the job market, and backward linkage, looking at the school education, and can we really start looking at improving the delivery of our education in the schools, because that is the foundation. So this mySATHI journey will start with the test, which tests the 4 C's. But we want this to continue across the education system, bringing in a required transformation that is needed in order to look at a Vikasit Bharat by 2047. I am really thankful to all the institutions which have taken the first step forward. We have many of them sitting here, so we would like to thank you, and then hopefully this movement will go forward and then bring in the required transformation. Thanks a lot, and great to have all of you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Subbu sir. You all may know Subbu sir has been the Secretary of Education for Government of India, and under his leadership, National Education Policy was unveiled in 2020. Thank you, sir. Your address has given us a clear and inspiring national and global perspective on how mySATHI can shape the future of higher education, employability and entrepreneurship space, and contribute to a stronger India and stronger world. May I now request Professor Partha Pratim Chakrabarti. Parthaji has been the ex-director of IIT Kharagpur, and he has been the brain behind in terms of technology and so on and so forth of mySATHI. Please welcome, sir.
Good morning, everybody, and it's such a pleasure to see all of you here. Whatever I will say is something that all of you know. It's not that you all don't know, because most of you are very thoughtful leaders of the institution, and we all know that there are serious difficulties which we need to solve for our country at scale and at economic value. So as both Satya and Mr. Subramaniam have pointed out, we tried to understand where we want to touch upon. Therefore, instead of building another university, which is a model university like all of you are attempting, we wanted to do something horizontally so that we can enable all of you with the purpose that you have. And the biggest purpose and the biggest difficulty that all of us have is finding the right students for our institution. It is not that every institution has the same goals, same aspirations, and same attitudes. People have different dimensions. The second thing that all of us know is that all our entrance exams, except for analytical and quant ability, are elimination exams. Next slide, please. Can you come to the slides? Yeah. So all our exams are elimination exams. And we all know what elimination exams and everything else tries to do. An elimination exam converts and transforms the student to try and crack the exam. And once you try to crack the exam, then you take everything away from your thinking and see, look at this question, isko to C lagta hai. You don't even know what is the question. You don't even know previous three were A, B, so now this fellow must be C. And all of us have found students who come to our institutions, bright people, but badly conditioned because of the exams. And being 40 years in an IIT system, having created the second most difficult exam in the world, and created an industry whose whole budget is more than our own budget of our IITs, we have come to the conclusion that nationwide we need an exam which measures intrinsic intelligence beyond subject matter intelligence. A lot of experiments I conducted with my psychology colleagues, and we found that if you give the same question to a physics student and a biology student, whether it's a question in physics or biology or something else, they start answering differently. So this ability to create a horizontal that will help every entry point at higher education is not just an exam. Why we chose this avenue instead of a university is that we want to enable people, and we want, as Mr. Subramaniam said, change the thinking mindset. The other is, it is not a question of elimination. Today, as you all know, with the power of AI, tools, teachers, the most patient teacher, the person who solves all your doubts, the person who tells you which concept is wrong, everything is coming up. And it will come up in a bigger and bigger and bigger way. You must have seen that Gemini has launched a SAT practice for free for everybody else worldwide. Practice for SAT for free. So I'm just waiting when they will practice for IIT and JEE for free. The other question is that, therefore, students should know that I am trying to find out my problems, difficulties. For that, even tools are coming out. What is not coming out is a comprehensive tool for a la carte for every university or institution. I want this kind of students. Can you give me an understanding of which students are more suitable for me? So that is the other, and in order to do that, we have to start somewhere. So what we are saying about 4 C's, domains, it is not stamped in gold or stone anywhere. It's an evolving principle. So that is why the first step is diagnostic or intrinsic intelligence. Second is that this intelligence that we want to measure is not just holistic. The questions, the answers are all going to be designed in such a way that they are going to bring credibility to the solution that you choose. And it is not necessarily going to be a ABCD solution or a long answer solution and things like that. And as we are doing computer science and people all over the world, which is the next question to ask? How do I ask that question? Do you collaborate with the student to ask that question and things like that? So, coming, next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So, as we said, that we really want to ensure that this test is a test which provides the student a wide array of features to test, measure and to prepare for. We also want, this is our holy grail, that this is a test which, if it is truly intrinsic intelligence, you cannot game so easily. You cannot go on preparing the exam for the exam so that after a certain point you will reach a plateau. So as we said, all tests have this critical thinking ability. Your analytical reasoning, your quantitative reasoning, and things like that. We added 3 more items. There are more which we did not add. One is creativity. When you give a problem and you ask for a solution, you check whether they are giving a unique solution to the problem rather than answering a question. It's not about, as Mr. Subramaniam said, it's not about following orders. It's about trying to say what you want to do. The other is collaboration. As we know that we are very poorly trained in collaboration in higher education. And communication is an issue. We really don't know how to precisely communicate and things like that. So we have embarked on these 3-4 things in addition to the normal critical thinking ability. What we have not done, we have not started measuring empathy. We have not started measuring your ability to think about society. Those are also very, very important things that will come up. But we couldn't manage everything together. We wanted at least to start off somewhere. What we did was, our belief is that this exam cannot be fully AI generated. This exam needs a combination of AI and human experts at all levels to generate this exam, this kind of a test. Because our experience with the current AI technology, with the current methodologies, and believe me, I work with most of the state-of-the-art new edtech companies, full AI is not able to still capture what is there with our teachers. And this is something which is already there with the team of Satya. He has some extraordinary people. So in order to do that, in order to come to that, we conceived of doing a pilot test. So we created 100 questions, curated 100 questions. We ran it in 4-5 rounds to a total of 3,200 students. and in several modes, test, retest, etc. And questions were in all categories, and people had to answer these questions. And this is the kind, next slide please. Next slide. Yeah. This is the kind of responses that we got. We found that the questions that were generated, if you see that side, the people who responded 53, 48, 43. So this was consistent. And it was consistent across cycles. But it was not so consistent that it is copybook. As you can see from here, if you look at ALR, which is analytical and logical reasoning, the easiest was answered the highest, the medium level had lowest, and the hardest level had higher than that. But it was more consistent for quant, it was more consistent for situational judgment, but it was again, a reverse was there in verbal ability. The reason for this, if you go down, is that we found, next slide, that there are two kinds of students. And when we clustered them and did a very good clustering, we found that across the board, there are two categories of students. One category who seriously attempts and does not attempt. And among those who seriously attempt and do not attempt, those who do well and do not do well. So this, and again we found that there is a gradation among those who do well, which see which ability they do well and they don't do well. Therefore, if you go to the previous slide, please. So these anomalies that we see here are mainly due to the people who have not done well. If you take them out, and those who have really attempted seriously, then more or less this becomes very consistent, which gives us an idea that the tests that we conducted, next slide please, the tests that we conducted is scale invariant. When we conducted 1000 to 3000, it more or less behaved the same. And we got these multiple clusters. Next slide. So what does this tell us? That this is a scalable design that enables us to give very critical feedback to every student about which ability they were good at, which ability they were not good. It enables them to replay. With technology, you can do hundreds of things. It enables an institution to know which clusters of students are in which category. Many institutions want diversity of people. Many institutions want one category of people. And we believe that we can work individually with institutions to even customize the exams in spite of it being a more general for all the country. So this is the first level, but this has given us a lot of confidence. When we ran this through AI and independent of AI, we found that if we do only AI, we don't get as good results as we do when we combine this with AI. Which means that this human in the loop feedback, which we are preparing for the which we are using for mySAThi, is typically good. Next. Finally, next slide. All these you all know. So finally, what we are trying to say is that a person can take this test many times, they can see where they have improved and how they can proceed. Finally, I want to tell you that whatever I have told you, everything you actually know. The only thing that we engineers are, is my student used to say, every day we used to discuss. So he used to tell me only one thing. Sir, अब तो बहुत हो गया, अब कब करना है बताइए. So we want to take this idea back. I would request Satya and his team to also gather from all of us here, what is it that you all think we need in such an exam? And that will be a great input to us. I'm very excited to be part of this initiative, And I thank all of you for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Partha Pratim Chakrabarti. It's interesting to see the intrinsic test which cannot be gamed, because whole world has been gaming the chess. It's been beautifully thought. It captures the thought behind mySATHI, the depth and rigor to which he and his team did, assuring that this platform is as strong on scholarship as much as its purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move ahead to the much awaited moment. The moment we are about to witness is not just launch of a platform, as both Subbu sir and Partha sir shared. It is a beginning of new journey for students who are searching for clarity. It is a new compass for young minds who are preparing for higher ed, careers, entrepreneurship, and life beyond the classrooms. It is a promise that every learner deserves to be seen for who truly they are and what they can become. The unveiling of mySATHI represents a shared commitment to guide students with insight, empower institutions with meaning, and shape a generation that is ready for the future. Now, at this defining moment, we invite our distinguished dignitaries to join us on stage for the ceremonial lamp lighting and the formal unveiling of mySATHI. May I respectfully request the following esteemed guest to please come forward onto the stage. Subbu sir, Professor Partha Pratim Chakrabarti, Satya, Sri Bharat ji, Honorable Member of Parliament and Educationist, Dr. Mrs. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General, Association of Indian Universities, Mr. Venu Rajamani, IFS, Bhunesh Kumar, CEO UIDAI, Mr. Atul Tiwari, former Secretary Government of India, and Her Excellency Maishini Kolon, High Commissioner of Sri Lanka. May I request all of you to grace the stage, please. Deep gratitude to all the dignitaries who unveiled mySATHI. We'll now move to the next segment. May I request Mr. Subbu sir, Partha Pratim Chakrabarti, Satya, and Dr. Srimati Pankaj Mittal, and Sri Bharat to come onto the stage. Please, I'm sorry, I should have asked you to be there. Please. Now we are going to begin the certification ceremony. There are innumerable universities and institutions who have gained the confidence in this whole mySATHI platform. So this segment, we will invite each university. So we will first unveil the research report. May I request to move a little up front? Yeah. Soon, sir, soon. The platform can be AI-driven. Yeah, kindly be on stage. Kindly be on stage because ready here for the institutions. Now we will invite the early adopter of mySATHI, our empaneled higher educational institutions. We welcome all of them on board. These institutions are not only just early adopters, they are pioneers who believe in preparing students not only for admissions into their institutions, but also for developing them for the future and much beyond. We will now invite representatives from each institution to the stage in the order shared with us to receive their certificates in a ceremonial manner. May I request the dignitaries on stage to kindly present the certificates. Is there? Okay. Thank you, and also congratulations to all institutions who are here. I will start with the institutions. Certificates ready? Okay. There are about 20 odd institutions that are present today. I'll start with IIT Madras, Shivku. IIT Madras has a campus in Zanzibar and it has come on board. So IIT Madras certificate is being received by Mr. Shivkumar Ramachandran, an alumnus of IIT Madras, on behalf of the IIT Madras Zanzibar. Thank you, Shuku. Thank you, IIT Madras Zanzibar. May I request Indian Institute of Management, Mumbai, Professor Ravindra Gokhale, kindly grace the stage. So we have IITs also and IIMs also as part of the initial set of institutions who have come on board. Professor Ravindra Gokhale from IIM Mumbai. Thank you very much, Professor Gokhale. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Gokhale. May I now request Mr. M. Sri Bharat, Gandhi Institute of Technology and Management, Thanks for gracing the stage. We need many more such people who are in the space of education. Then may I invite University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering, Shri Atul K. Tiwari, Chairman and Board of Governor, former Secretary to Government of India, and also Professor Subhashish Tripathi, the Director, University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering. Thank you, Atulji. Thank you very much. Now I have the privilege of inviting an institution that I used to go to for my physical fitness about 40 years ago, Lakshmi Bai National Institute of Physical Education. Mr. Deepak Grover, I think is there maybe outside. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll call the next institution, Dhirubhai Ambani University. Deepak Grover ji, please come. Lakshmi Bai National Institute of Physical Education. The first of its campuses is in Gwalior, and I used to study there, so I used to be going every evening to play badminton at your institution in Gwalior about 40 years ago. Mr. Deepak Grover from Lakshmi Bai National Institute of Physical Education. Thank you very much, Deepak ji. Thank you. May I now invite Mr. Rajan Wadhwa to take the certification for Dhirubhai Ambani University. He is representing the university. Dhirubhai Ambani University. Thank you, Rajan. May I now invite Manav Rachna University, Professor Dr. Dipendra Kumar Jha, the Vice Chancellor, and Ms. Kanupriya Shekhar, the Director of Admissions, Manav Rachna University, please. So, may I request Sanjeev Srivastava ji to please. Sanjeev ji, Sanjay ji, Sanjay ji. Both Manav Rachna University and also Manav Rachna International Institute for Research. So Sanjay ji is wearing both caps today for us, the entire Manav Rachna family. Thank you very much, Sanjay ji. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sanjay ji. Now we have the entire family of institutions, IFIM, Jagdish Sheth School of Management, and Vijay Bhumi University. All three institutions have subscribed to mySATHI. May I now invite the director and owner of IFIM, Jagsom and Vijay Bhumi, Mr. Pranav ji, to please come on stage. Mr. Pranav Pataudi, representing entire family of institutions. whole battery of certifications, one for each. IFIM institutions, Jagdish Seth School of Management, and Vijay Bhumi University. May I now invite Mr. Vineet Thomas on behalf of Chandigarh University, please. Mr. Vineet. May I invite Mr. Puneet to receive the certification on behalf of Alliance University, please. May I now request Shri Kumar Shekhar Vijendraji, co-founder and chancellor of Shobit University, to grace the stage and receive the certification. Shri Kumar Shekhar Vijendraji. Now it's time for design. Design is taking center stage. So now I have the privilege of inviting Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Vice Chancellor of World University of Design. Dr. Sanjay Gupta ji. Creativity and critical thing is at the center of mySATHI, and design has to be there. Sanjay. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, the Vice Chancellor of World University of Design. Thank you, Sanjay ji. May I now request Mr. Swadesh Kumar Singh, CEO, GNIOT Group of Institutions, to grace the stage and take the certification. Mr. Swadesh Kumar Singh. May I now request Dr. Shivendra Mathur, Vice Chancellor, NIIT University. Please, sir, please come on stage. I apologize, Please come. Dr. Shivendra Mathur, Vice Chancellor, NIIT University. Big round of applause, please. Thank you very much, Shivendra ji. Thank you. Now we have a few impact school partners. They are here. May I request Ms. Meenu Gupta, Principal Vidya School. Meenu ji, please come. Vidya schools are doing wonders, especially for children from the marginalized, in bringing the children from marginalized to the center stage through education. Mrs. Meenu Gupta. May I now invite Ms. Supriya Akhauri, Founder, Trustee and Director, Vidya and Child. The child at the center in the whole endeavor of Vidya and Child.
One of the
Supriya Akhauri. May I now invite Ashish Bari to take the certificate on behalf of Jayaprakash Narayan Sarvodaya Vidyalaya, Principal Vandana Yadav, Ghaziabad. Jayaprakash Narayan Sarvodaya Vidyalaya. Sarvodaya Vidyalayas have played immense role in bringing marginalized children, and there are many at the higher echelons today who have been alumnus of Sarvodaya Vidyalayas of the country. This is Jayaprakash Narayan Sarvodaya Vidyalaya. Thank you very much for all dignitaries for sharing the stage and presenting the certification. Thank you very much. Subbu sir, thank you, Pratap Senji. There are a couple of very eminent gentlemen who have set the nation's agenda and also have played a great role in nation's development in the last few decades. They could not be here today, so we have short videos of theirs. Nobody needs any introduction for Dr. R.A. Mashalkar, who was Director General of CSIR. So he has something to say about mySATHI. May I have the video of Dr. Mashalkar?
One of the most transformative shifts introduced by NEP 2020 is its insistence that education must prepare learners for life and not merely for examinations. Degrees alone no longer guarantee success. What matters is readiness. And readiness today means the ability to think critically rather than mechanically, create rather than merely consume, communicate across disciplines and cultures, and collaborate in uncertain, fast-changing environments. So therefore, critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. These 4 C's are the most important ones. Now, these are the very capabilities that determine success whether a student enters a university classroom, a corporate workplace, an apprenticeship, or a startup incubator. As Alfred Toffler famously warned, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that is where platforms like mySATHI come in to help. Platforms like mySATHI operationalize this very idea that I talked about by shifting assessment from what students know to how ready they are to grow, from know to grow. By combining behavioral, cognitive, and capability-based assessments, mySATHI speaks a common language to universities, to recruiters, to skilling programs, and to entrepreneurs, making it a rare bridge across academia, industry, and the startup ecosystem. In that sense, mySATHI is not an assessment tool. It is actually a readiness compass, I would say. Now, if you look at assessment as a development tool for universities, traditionally, assessment in higher education has been episodic and exclusionary. A one-time gatekeeper at entry, followed by fragmented exams that rarely inform personal growth. The real opportunity lies in reimagining assessment as a developmental journey. So, used thoughtfully, a framework like mySATHI allows universities to do 4 things. First, assess incoming students not to reject but to understand them. Second, identify individual capability gaps early, whether in communication, problem solving, or self-regulation. Third, design targeted interventions over the full 4-year campus journey. And fourth, track growth longitudinally not just grades semester by semester. Imagine a student who enters with strong technical ability but weak confidence or weak teamwork skills. With continuous feedback and mentoring enabled by such assessments, that student can graduate not just employable but enterprise ready. And that's what we want. Peter Drucker once said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. By embedding capability-based assessment from entry to exit, universities can intentionally create better academic outcomes, higher employability, and stronger entrepreneurial preparedness instead of leaving this to chance. This moves us decisively from selection-based education to capability-building education, and that's what exactly we want. That's where mySAThi helps. Now, if you look at the internationalization of higher education, India's Study in India initiative is both ambitious and timely. With the right enablers, India can become a global education hub, offering scale, diversity, and affordability without compromising quality. However, internationalization demands credibility, transparency, and trust. Globally, mobile students and their governments ask three fundamental questions. First, is the admission process fair and objective? Second, are learning outcomes predictable and comparable? And third, is student potential recognized beyond rote scores? Platforms like mySAThi, I am confident, provide a compelling answer. A credible, standardized and equitable readiness assessment can again do three things. The first, help Indian universities confidently scale inbound international students from the current, that is 50,000 per year, to 200,000 and beyond, maybe 250,000. Ensure quality is preserved even as scale increases, because normally it goes down. And third, to reassure students that opportunity in India is based on potential and preparedness, not just privilege. In effect, mySAThi can become a trust infrastructure, if I may use that word, for global learners, strengthening India's reputation as a serious, student-centric education destination. As Rabindranath Tagore wrote, the higher education is that which does not merely give us information, but makes our life in harmony with all existence. By foregrounding readiness, fairness and growth, mySAThi will align perfectly with the larger civilizational vision of education. So in summary, I would say simply this, that mySAThi will advance NEP 2020 vision by focusing on readiness, not rote. It will transform assessment from a filtering mechanism into a developmental pathway. And third, it will strengthen India's global education ambitions by embedding trust, transparency, and equity. So put simply, if I may conclude, mySAThi will help us move from testing students to preparing citizens. From testing students to preparing citizens, and from measuring marks to unlocking the human potential. Thank you very much.
Unlocking human potential. Who can articulate much better than Dr. Mashalkar, who has guided the nation for almost 3 decades in cutting-edge technologies. Another short video I request to be played, that is of Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe, who has played critical role in the last couple of decades in the India's technology space, especially in building institutions. May I have the video, please? It's a short 4-minute video.
Sabhi ko namaskar. I am very happy and delighted that a new product, mySAThi, is being launched. This has been a great initiative in terms of how our students are trained, how they are educated, how we take them forward in higher education sector. SAThi itself stands for Scholastic Aptitude Test in higher education institutes. We all see that there are several entrance exams which are being conducted today, whether it is JEE, CUET, NEET, and so on. And they are all based on subjects like physics, maths, chemistry, or maybe economics, psychology, etc. But the student's interest, student's aptitude is not tested in the process. And therefore, many a times what happens is we select students who become ultimately not fit for that particular education. And therefore, some kind of an aptitude test was all the time necessary. And many of the faculty and educators from both IITs and IIMs have come together to create this product, and very, very valuable for all of us. We should also look at this product from the perspective of our National Education Policy 2020, wherein we are talking about holistic development of the students. And naturally, it is not just through the course curriculum, but outside the course curriculum in terms of variety of other attributes which a student has to earn. And there are 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. All of these are given great value, great importance in our national education policy. And testing on these aspects is not a very easy task. So setting up question papers to test the creativity of a student. Maybe you can give a small idea and ask a student to paint or write a poem to test the creativity. But in an objective test fashion, how do you really analyze and find out the creative capability of a student? Or also critical thinking. Give a challenging statement and ask that statement to be analyzed and give her or his views on that. And then test on how effectively he is a critical thinker. How is a student communicating? Communicating with peers, communicating with leaders, communicating with the stakeholders. And also the most important part is that of collaboration. Collaboration is a very important thing in today in terms of whether it is research or whether it is in terms of development of a product and taking it forward. So all these 4 traits are to be developed among students and tested for employability, for creating entrepreneurship journey, and that's what probably this product will be able to make for the students to help. And colleges and universities, by using, probably they will identify the weaknesses or where they lack, and they will be able to improve upon that. And admission tests in many of the world's high-ranked institutions does take place through either GRE or SAT. So something similar is required in our country, and starting from training of our teachers and students, and this is what is going to be that void or gap which existed is going to be filled by this product mySATHI. And the name, as it suggests, it is my companion. Sathi is companion, and if it is companion, it will look at your strengths, weaknesses, allows you to improve and go forward. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much. May now invite one of the young honorable members of Parliament, and as we have seen, a keen educationist, Sri Bharat, to grace the stage and share his thoughts. Welcome, Sri Bharat.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone. I thought I'll share some experiences with this area. I lead a university called Geetam. My grandfather founded it. It was an engineering college in 1980. We became a deemed university in 2007. I worked with Geetam between 2011 and 14 in a full-time capacity in the Hyderabad campus. I did not like what I saw. I did my undergrad at Purdue in the US. I just came back. It was starkly different. And I was agitated and I was arguing with my grandfather, who was alive at the time, on how we can do things differently. He thought I was an angry young man and I don't have maturity, so, which was partially true. And then I left in 14. I did a graduate degree, then came back to India. 2 years I was away from Geetam while I continued to be on the board. In 2018, my granddad passed away in an accident, and I stepped into his role. I've been doing this now for a little over 7 years. So now all of the theory, whatever I had, that how we should do things differently, I had an opportunity now to walk the talk. So when I stepped in, I did a quick diagnosis. What should we do to transform? We said we need to have very strong leadership. We need to ensure that our processes become much better. Because in the US, when I was there, they used to keep saying that the system here has a lot of checks and balances. Now, in today's era, I can't say whether the checks and balances are really working or not, but they used to say at the time that I was there that a good president will take you close to 90% efficiency and a bad president will not go below 40% or below 50%. So I was inspired at the time that why don't we design systems like that? I think the systems that we have, both because of regulators and because of our own internal processes, the band of operation is probably like 10 to 50%. The best person cannot take it beyond 50, and the worst person will take it down to 10 or 0. So we had to change that. We also had to set some kind of a goal, something that is tangible. So I said we'll become a global 100 university because there was a lot of chatter about it at the time. I don't know if by 2040. I don't think we'll achieve it by 2040, but at least you'll move in some direction. How do we do this? High quality faculty is at the core, and attracting high quality faculty is not easy. We've been working on it for the last 7 years. And the next is attracting high quality students. So when I looked at our process, we were doing our own entrance test. We were also considering the JEE exam. We were considering the local state tests like MSET, TSET, KSET. We were operating in 3 campuses, Andhra, Telangana, and Karnataka. Vast majority of our admissions came from our own entrance test. So if we admitted about 8,000 students, about 7,000 odd would come from our own entrance test, and the remaining sub 1,000 would come from all of these other tests that I'm mentioning. Then we said we want to attract merit. So we need to offer some kind of a scholarship to recognize merit. I think we started it in 2020, only for the engineering program because it's about half our student strength. It did reasonably well. Then we expanded it to a few other programs. I think in 22 was the first time that we did it for all our programs in Geetham, or almost all our programs. And from 22 onwards, I've been looking at the pattern. We get about 35 to 40,000 applications. We offer the scholarship to around 8,000 or 9,000 students. It varies from year to year, primarily based on bands. And we offer 100, 75, 60, 40, 25, 15, 15 being the lowest. And I think in 22, I can't remember the exact amount that we gave, but for the last 2-3 years, our first year students receive between 40 to 50 crores of worth of scholarships. And about 300 students each year get in through the 100% and 75% scholarship category. Now, we said this is a way to recognize merit, and we take them into the system. What is the test? If you go into the details, it was modeled very similar on the JEE exam. But we were not testing language ability. So we added language ability to all the different disciplines. Then we said it's not testing their logical capability, so then we should add that aspect also. Then we recognized that the vendor that we were working with didn't have the capacity to develop in the way that we wanted to. So since the last 2 years, we've moved to a different vendor. It's an organization called Education Initiatives. And we found that that test is very similar to the language that is being spoken today about mySATHI. It costs us about the same. The earlier test, I think, was costing us maybe 150 rupees or 200 rupees per person. Education Initiatives is costing us about 500-600 right now. And but the concern has been that we put some way of good behavior so that the student, after they enter, they don't relax. We said you need to maintain a 8 CGPA out of 10. And if you don't maintain 8, then between 7.5 and 8, your scholarship will be bumped down by 1 level. So if you've received 75% and you fall down between 7.5 to 8 CGPA, it goes down to 60. If it goes below 7.5, it goes to 0. And you have a semester or a year for you to bring your CGPA back up into that band, and then it will be revived. We found the drop-off rate is very steep, that after the first year, 40 to 50% of students were losing their scholarships. So while our first year dole out is about 45 to 50 crores, if you look at our total scholarship budget this year, it is 110 crores. So the first year is about 50. The remaining 3-4 years is only 60. That's not very encouraging. So I need to also understand why this problem is. To some extent, I can recognize that the assessment that we're doing in Geetam is not very good. The examinations have a long way to go before we can call them satisfactory. The examinations are set by faculty members. Many of the faculty members are in their comfort zone, so they don't evolve their tests. In many areas, we've found that they test for rote memorization rather than application of thought. So, but if we don't have any barometer, then we have no way to tell how students are performing. At least it's ensuring that students work hard. That's why we said 8. We didn't say 9 or 9.5. We said we'll keep it easy enough that people will be able to achieve it. Why are we doing this? Because as Professor Partha said, we are dealing with the rejects of the IIT system, right? Those who don't get into the IITs are the ones who are coming to us. And these test prep institutions that have mushroomed, whose budget is now larger than the IITs, they're doing great damage to these young citizens. So by the time they go through this 11th and 12th or 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th, they're devoid of happiness, energy, motivation, confidence, because at least the ones who get into IITs and IITs feel they've made it. The ones who come to us feel that because they didn't make it, they're settling for something lesser. So how do you turn this around? So our effort has been to move away from this audience. To the extent possible, we don't want to admit people who have been in the test prep path. So we want to go more towards the CBSE, ICSE, IB schools so that undoing the damage is much harder for us. So in that sense, I think this direction that mySATHI is taking is great. We are happy to be involved in whatever capacity and be a receiver of what you're doing, because now you are bringing people from all over the nation onto this platform. So for us, access is going to be great because we want good students to come. Because if we get students who are not motivated, who don't know who they are, don't know where they want to go, it's very difficult for us. I think even in the IITs, Professor Partha will agree that in many of the IITs, particularly the newer ones, it's largely a student or a peer-led culture rather than a very strong faculty-led culture. Students are taking care of themselves. So if we don't have good students, then nobody's taking care of them. It's a different point, Subramanian Garu will know, that I feel that as an educator, as a private educator, our hands and legs are tied and we are being asked to run. So it's very difficult for us to do what we're doing. The government prescribes to us what kind of faculty should be recruited as a simple metric. We get points for the number of faculty that you have with a PhD in your university in the national rankings. It does not measure what is the quality of this PhD. We get points for number of PhD students graduated. It does not measure what is the quality of the PhD student. We get points for number of papers published. There is a quality metric over there, but it is insufficient. So we've seen many universities doing jugaad, which is how do we break this system? And this culture is now spreading to the public institutions also. If you see the number of article retractions, paper retractions, one would assume that it will only be private universities. But public universities are also figuring on these lists. Many governments, state governments are putting pressure on their state universities that you need to be in the rankings, not recognizing what are the ingredients that are necessary to do well for high quality research. So I think I really applaud this team for bringing this forward, and I'll be happy to be an advocate for this, build awareness. And I was just discussing with Professor Partha that increasing access is very important. 500 is lesser than what SAT costs, but 500 is still a lot for a large part of India. So increasing access is going to be very important, because if we are giving, Geetam as an example is giving 110 crores worth of scholarship, and we have about, over the 5 years, about 800-900 students who get hostel and tuition at 100% or 75% off. I would rather give it to those who I feel are more deserving and who would use that opportunity to do something great for our nation. Because as I said, this test is not looking for values and wanting to give back to society. I think that's also very important. I mean, in a very not a satirical manner, that the IITs and IIMs are largely creating mercenaries for hire. And they have their own set of challenges to be able to change that. There are some good faculty over there who are able to inspire these students, but otherwise, because being in my public life, I can share an example. There's a political consultancy that worked with the opposition party in the state today. They were in power from 19 to 24. And they spewed a lot of lies, a lot of venom on us when we were in government from 14 to 19. And then when I looked into the team that they had that was doing this work, 80% were IIT and IIM graduates. So they are very good at what they do, but if they don't have a moral compass, then it's going to be very dangerous for the nation. So hence at Geetam, we want to access institutions that may not have the best resources, may not have the students who will do the best on math and physics, but are in an environment where they've been nurtured with a strong value system, have a desire to give back, and we want those students to come. We want our money or resources to be spent on such people. I think a platform like mySATHI will give us access to that, to be able to identify such students, because for us to fix our faculty problem is a much larger problem. I can't fix that overnight. So I'd rather focus on fixing the student problem to begin with, attract the better students who are now being lost in this vast ecosystem of 60,000 institutions, not being guided well, a lot of lies being peddled in the society, particularly by private institutions, but by everyone at large. So identifying these quote-unquote gems and bringing them to an institution like Geetam is part of the motivation for us to do the work that we're doing. So thank you for inviting me for this conference and for having me speak. It's my honor. I look forward to collaborating with like-minded people. That's why I wanted to give some cues on the direction in which I'm thinking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sri Bharat, for highlighting the challenges that many institutions in India are facing, and also the honest intentions in the direction we're moving and being part of mySATHI. Thank you very much, Sri Bharat. I would like to share that we have participation here, presence here of many nations, South nations as well as nations from Europe. So you have representations here with Her Excellency Maishini ji from Sri Lanka, and Ilie and Sandra from Romania and Netherlands. I'm sorry, sir. And Kwa from Spain. And we are joined by Mr. Riaz Hamidullah, His Excellency, Ambassador from Bangladesh. And the Excellencies from Kenya are just on our way, just got a message. Thank you very much for coming here, because this could be of great value for children, because I travel extensively and go into institutions in quite a few countries. These days, I'm traveling a lot in Africa, and I realize how this could be of great value, I'm sure, across the nations. May I now invite Dr. Srimati Pankaj Mittal to grace the stage. Dr. Pankaj Mittal is Secretary General of Association of Indian Universities.
A very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, thanks to Subbu sir for giving me an opportunity to interact with all of you. He has always been my favorite. Like when I was in UGC, I was working with him in Ministry of Education, and that was the best period of my life. So, sir, you are my favorite. Dr. Subbu, sir, and then we have many higher education institutions present here. Dr. Kumar Shekhar Vijay is there, Dr. Sanjay Srivastav is there. Again, my one more mentor, Dr. Partha Chatterjee is there. Many, many ambassadors of many countries are there. So a very good afternoon to you. And the launch of mySAThi app, I think this is something which is very, very needed for today's higher education system. Why? For example, if you see what are the aspirations of the students today, they want to be creative. They want to be, they're very, very aspiring, so they want to be successful. They want to be problem solvers. They want to be working in team and eventually work as team leaders. They want to be learning forever. They don't want to stop whenever their institution education is over. So these are the aspirations. And how many of these aspirations are fulfilled by the higher education ecosystem we have today is to be seen. Of course, NEP is trying to address many of these aspirations. What are the aspirations of higher education institutions? They want that they should be getting the best students. How to get the best students? Again, that is a very big issue for them. There are multiple tests which are being given by various agencies, and then many institutions have their own tests also. And the higher education institutions also want that once the students graduate from their institutions, they should be employable, they should be job ready, they should be skilled, and the placements of that institution should be very good. What do the employers want? Employers want job ready students, skilled students, and they are really worrying about the gap between the education and the skilling, the requirements of the industry, and the the education which the higher education institutions are imparting. So these, different institutions. Similarly, one more area which we are right now forgetting is, what is the wish of the, say, government or the institutions like UGC or NAC? They want quality education. For example, when you talk of NAC, NAC is there to assess the quality of higher education imparted by various institutions and then to rate that institution. Now, how do they assess the quality? They assess the quality by using different methods. There are many parameters, but most of it is input driven. What is the infrastructure? What is the faculty size? What is the faculty-student ratio? What is the publication? Most of it is input-driven. And then many of our universities keep on raising this issue that I, as a rural women university, cannot compare myself with an IIT. The level of students who come to IIT is much above the level of students who come to me. So what type of value addition IIT is doing and what type of value addition I am doing, they are not comparable, and maybe I am doing more because the level of students which I got was much lower as compared to IITs who were already well-accomplished students. So is NAC really testing the value addition done by the institution on the students? No. So I feel that the reply to all these questions can be mySAThi app. How? Because right now, when we talk of many tests, students are really worried, like, if this test goes bad, what will happen? If that test goes bad, what will happen? But this test, and then again, we say that the future of jobs is uncertain, the future of learning is uncertain. So today, whatever we are learning, somebody told me that half-life of knowledge. Half-life of knowledge means the time period in which half of the knowledge which we have learned will go obsolete is reducing very fast. So sometimes they say in the fields like AI, engineering, computers, it is reduced to almost 5 to 6 months. So if the 5 to 6 months every knowledge goes obsolete, then why are we testing that knowledge? Why don't we test the creativity? Why don't we test the learning skill? Why don't you test the creativity of the student? So that is precisely what mySAThi is doing. So when I was sitting, so I thought mySAThi is taking care of 7 steps. Saptapadi, you know, in marriages we take Saptapadi. So Saptapadi is being taken by mySAThi app. For example, from elimination to enrollment. That is the first step. They don't believe in elimination, they believe in enablement, enabling the students. So enablement is very, very powerful word, empowering the students. Second step, they say that right now the examinations are linear pen and paper examinations. they are going in for AI-driven adaptive test, which really tests the skills of the student, and which is adaptive in the sense that every student doesn't get the same test. Every student gets a different test based on the work they are doing. This is what is now being done by many platforms like Coursera and all, learning at your own pace. So that is the second step. Third step of Saptapadi, which again I feel is very important, is domain knowledge. Like, why should we test the knowledge of the, which is being done by the existing test, that testing the knowledge of, say, physics, chemistry, biology, maths, and all. Why can't we test whether the student has the capacity to learn? So if the student has the capacity to learn, if we know that the student is creative or not, whether he can do critical thinking or not, then everything can be learned. I mean, learning is not a problem, provided you know how to learn. So can you test how, I mean, which student has what capacity of learning? Means how to learn is a word which I feel is very important, that are we teaching our students how to learn? So once we teach our students how to learn, then testing how to learn means, do the students have that capacity? That is the third step. Fourth step is, again, there is a lot of tension in the students that there is a single test, single rank or single score. But in SATHI, mySATHI app, we can be having multiple testing. We can self-evaluate ourselves again and again and come out with a score which I feel is the best for me. I know that whether I have the further improvement scope or not, nobody else knows about me. I know about myself. So can I have multiple scores depending upon what I feel is my capability? That is the opportunity mySATHI gives. Fifth is the high stress, like these examinations are high stress examinations. You must have learned about the, not only the suicides and all, but also of the gaming which happens in these examinations, because they are very, very high stressful, high stake examinations. So sometimes paper leak is there, some copying is there, some cheating is there, some innovative ways of cheating are there. So from high step to self-awareness, self-assessment, self-analysis. So this is a very, very important fifth step which is taken in the Saptapadi through mySATHI, that yes, the student will not be subjected to stress, they will be subjected to a learning which is very, very creative learning, fun-loving learning, without any stress learning. That will happen. Then sixth, when the institutions have their own entrance test, or with whatever different tests are there, the central level tests are there, the focus is on filling the seats. So the test is there, get the score, fill the seats. But we don't do any student program institution matching. So there is a requirement that the student has to be given the right program. The program should be getting the right student, student should be getting the right institution, institution should be getting the right student. So this type of matching is not possible in the present test, but mySATHI can deliver that. And lastly, and the seventh step, the fear of failure, the suicides which are happening, I think this will convert to happy students, happy citizens, happy human beings. So these are the 7 steps which Saptapadi or which mySATHI will be following. And then while I was sitting here and we were talking of mySATHI, I was just saying that mySATHI is going to stay here forever. Why? Because even the word Sathi, you strike off I, Saath remains, and mySATHI is something which will always be with you. Saath remains. Remove H. SAT remains, and this is all about testing, so SAT score. Remove T. Sa remains, which is a musical note, and this is a musical journey through mySATHI. And remove A. Subbu sir still remains. So that is mySATHI. Thank you for inviting me here. And my best wishes to mySATHI. And we will also try to promote it through Association of Indian Universities, which is the largest association of universities in the world. We have around 1,200 universities as our members, and this year is our centenary year. We are celebrating 100th year. And the legacy we hold is like Sarpalli, Dr. Radhakrishnan, Dr. Zakir Hussain, Dr. Shyam Prasad Mukherjee, Dr. Mudalia, Dr. Hansa Mehta. They have been the presidents of AIU in the past. So I'm sure, sir, your mySATHI with you as the chairman will really travel long distance. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Srimati Pankaj Mittal. I really am enamored and taken in by the Saptapadi you have shared. May I now request Mr. Atul Tiwari, former Secretary Government of India, to share your few valuable thoughts. Please, sir, Dr. Atul Tiwari.
Good morning, Mr. R. Subramania, sir, Professor Chakravarti, and all the distinguished gathering here, Bhunesh ji and others. Whatever I have heard today, it is still sinking to my mind, and I was not told that I will have to say something, so I will just give some my thoughts on this. Whatever I little hear, and when Professor Chakravarti and Subramania sir is taking this forward, then one always feels that this is something which is really worthwhile. And I'm trying to examine it from 2 points of view. One is in the overall context of how education, skilling, and employment, and the Viksit Bharat, human resource development of India, under the overall system of the national education policy. And then I'm also seeing it from the point of view of the Vishwesvaraya College of Engineering, where this test is being employed. So I would like to see it more closely to understand how it has been designed, sir, because in our skilling also, there is a need. For example, AVGC sector, the Sector Skill Council, they had also designed something to see that whether the students or children, they can learn for this kind of art or visual or something like that. So this sort of, what shall I say, tasting and profiling is already going. But as it is that all these kinds of profiling also have the inherent challenges and challenges of exclusion, bias, and other things that also are something which we need to look forward. Insofar as that we get a good students to align with the courses which they are doing, certainly it's a very important thing. And perhaps in the ITI schemes in which we had launched a new scheme of 1,000 ITIs to be modernized, and the learning output management system which we're designing, this part can also play a very important part, because there also we see a lot of students giving up and they are not enjoying. Somebody has come for welder, but he doesn't want to work on the fitter or something like that. So that alignment will be required not only in higher education, but also in other sectors. And also, I'm also happy to note that many schools have also come forward. And from the, in a sense that we are trying to build this SATHI will also act as a kind of disruption. And because it disrupts the way we have been designed, our education system has been designed, our assessment system has been designed. And to the extent that this disruption allows the forward and backward linkages to take place. For example, higher educations, they have one, say, a box where they are getting the people from the school education side, and they have no control over them. So some amount of forward and backward linkages would be required. What is that we need to teach? And here that the two important things will become very important, which has been designed under the NEP itself. One is the National Curriculum Framework, in which the school education is being redesigned in a way that it is modern, it's not rote learning, it's more adaptive problem solving, etc. So some of the findings of this can go there as well. And perhaps there will be need to have a conversation with the school education system as well to see that whatever the curriculum has been designed so far, and the kind of assessment system which we are going to have, they will have that part in there. Second part will be that what is that the students lack, and how do we build into them and provide them short modules or something like that, where this will be the preparing them for the higher education as well as the later, that will also become very important. But insofar that we are getting the students developing these 4 C's, and that is which is required for they enjoy learning, that makes the whole education system more fruitful and enjoyable to the students as well as the faculty, and to the extent that it also creates a viable pathway for their eventual employment and some higher level of thinking and research. I think it's a very welcome ideas, and I am sure that looking into all these aspects, it's a very welcome idea, and we should all try and do it ahead and see. Now, once that there's a good number of institutions which are onboarded, then how this thing can also lead to overall changes in our education system per se, in our government universities, government colleges as well, so that the fruits of this hard labor is reaped by everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sri Atul Tiwari ji. May I request our dignitaries, Sri Bharat, to step onto the stage, Atul ji, and also Srimati Pankaj Mittal to come on stage. And may I invite Subbu sir to felicitate all the three dignitaries. Please come. Mr. Atul Tiwari. Thank you very much, Subbu sir. Thank you, Sri Bharat ji. Thank you, Srimati Pankaj Mittal ji. And thank you, Atul Tiwari ji. We are now stepping into the next phase, that is of conversation, that will shape how we think about the future learning in our country and in the world. This is a panel discussion of eminent people who have been in the space of higher education for many decades now. This panel discussion brings together leaders from academia, policy, industry, and international education to explore one essential question. How do you prepare students not just for admission, but for life in a rapidly changing world? This session will be chaired by Sri Narayanan Ramaswamy, National Leader, Education and Skill Development, Government and Public Service of KPMG. May I request Narayanan to... Yeah, Nana. Incidentally, Nana and I were together at IIM Bangalore 30 years ago, and we were in the same hostel mates. So here we meet on this stage. May I now request other members of this panel, starting with another gentleman who has been in the doing pioneering work as a director of IIMs, including IIM Bangalore and earlier IIM Indore. Professor Rishikesh Krishnan, may I request you to come on stage. Professor Rishikesh Krishnan has been mentor for many brilliant minds of this country, many CEOs. May I request Srimati Uma Kanjilal, Vice Chancellor of IGNOU University, perhaps the largest and the largest, but not perhaps, of the largest university in the world in terms of numbers that gain education in the world. May I request Mr. Mahesh Perry, one of the brilliant minds in the space of journalism and education, who is the founder of Careers 360. And may I now request Sri Jaspal Singh Sandhu, Vice Chancellor of Lovely Professional University, and one of the universities that gained significantly over the last decade. Thank you very much, Nana. The floor is all open, and kindly take it over from here.
Just about becoming good afternoon, actually. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Srini, for those kind introductions. And thanks, mySATHI, for giving us all an opportunity and the stage to discuss something that is very exciting, very relevant, which is the future of higher education and how the learning landscape is changing. Gives me immense pleasure from the vantage point that I am in, where I have a ringside view of many things that are happening, like be it with the governance or with educational institutions. I just thought I'll take a minute to trace back as to why we calling it future of education at this stage, right? If you go back when learning started, maybe it was all about how much you remembered and how much you can reproduce. And that, I guess, is still continuing in some form. We all talk about the rote format because that really started when essential for learning was how much you were able to remember and recollect, which I guess changed when paper and printing and where you can store came into being, where it was no more how much you can remember, but how much you can apply. And that is where some of the big universities in India, the ancient universities that came up, where the word that we associate with some of our ancient universities is wisdom, which is not associated with the modern format of universities, but we always said ancient universities have wisdom because that was the core principle with which we've been operating. But I guess somewhere along the line, maybe with the industrial revolution coming in, the Western world adopted a different format of education where they were producing people for industry, they were producing people for workforce, and hence they adopted a different collegiate format of education, which I guess we adopted with the Britishers coming in India and the famous Macaulay model and other things where affiliated colleges got into India, and we had large universities in which colleges were affiliated. And so we are still living in some form, even after independence, a format that essentially is the affiliating of colleges till about 2020, where even the privatization made this more efficient. But NEP 2020 was in all very sense a game changer. It's great to have Mr. Subramaniam here, because some of the pioneers of how this NEP 2020 was conceived are here. We spoke a lot about it. But I guess that is just the beginning of how change is happening with respect to future of education. Today we wanted to discuss about what is the change that is going to impact in future as well, right? We're talking about technology in a big way. Digital technologies are disrupting completely. At one level, there is even questions arising, and do we want this format of university at all? At another level, we say we want to increase the gross enrollment ratio, and we want more and more people to get into the system, and we want to increase the number of people who are educated. There are questions being raised as to what does being educated really mean? Do we need more and more people who are educated but are not really relevant to the current ecosystem, or should we move into a format where we look at relevance? And in this great kind of environment that we are in, we are looking into the future and say, what is the future of education? So in that context, we have an eminent panel, people who are academicians for life, who've been through the education system in multiple various formats, and people like Mahesh, who's not into the academic system but has been a big supporter and influencer in the education system. So we want to have a free-flowing discussion in terms of where do we see the future of education. An initiative like mySAThi is also a disruptor, where we are looking at how do we look at learning in a completely different lens. It's not about the scores that you get from an academic or what is called as academic pursuit, but also your intrinsic knowledge, and that should be the means of evaluating when somebody gets into from one format to another. It could be from school to college, it could be from college to employment or different stages. So with all these things in place, I would now turn to, I come from the institution that he headed, so he's one of my gurus. So I turn to Professor Krishnan to ask him about what do you see the impact of technology, sir? Technology seems to be ubiquitous, and they say everything is changing at one level, particularly artificial intelligence. What are your take on how is it that it's going to influence higher education in India?
Yeah, thanks, Narayan, for that introduction. I'm happy to be here. First of all, congratulations to the entire mySAThi team for this inauguration today, and I'm sure it's going to do extremely well. Coming to your question, we're all aware that technology is impacting us all in multiple ways, but let me focus specifically on education. I think the big challenge for us in education today is how do we make our students inherently hone their own abilities and also know how to use technology so that together they can have more impact. What we are seeing across the board, whether you look at consulting or you look at many other industries, it's clear that we are envisaging a future where man and machine or humans and machine will work closely together. And that is the expectation that most organizations have about the future. But in the education process, we have to be careful about one thing, and that is that we have to make sure that while the students learn how to use the machine, they also don't give up their own native intelligence, creativity, etc. Because what is also increasingly being talked about is how automation will achieve certain outcomes, but automation needs to be augmented by human creativity. So how do we preserve, how do we sharpen, how do we nurture human creativity, at the same time making our students skilled at using technology in an effective way? And this is already beginning to manifest itself even in job interviews. For example, in the last placement cycle, we saw many companies asking students, for example, one question which was asked was, please create a digital marketing plan for this product and tell me which AI tool will you use to do that and why will you use that AI tool instead of some other AI tool. So they're trying to figure out both whether you know something about digital marketing and also whether you know how to use the appropriate tool to make it happen. So it's this blending which is increasingly becoming important. Same thing is happening in consulting. If you look at McKinsey, they have already announced that in the future, they plan to choose their consultants not only on the inherent ability and IQ of the consultant, but on the ability of the consultant to use a tool and basically execute a particular consulting assignment. So to me, this is really the challenge. We have to use technology intelligently, but not at the cost of some of the basic human contributions, which are very important. And encompassing all of this, I'll just make one final comment, is that if we look at what we are attempting to do in the future, Mr. Subramaniam already mentioned in his introduction, the country has very big aspirations, Vikasit Bharat by 2047 and so on. If we want to achieve this, then the economy has to grow very rapidly, which also means that businesses and organizations will need people. They are not going to be completely replaced by machines. And therefore, this individual and the machine working well together will become extremely important for us to achieve our dreams.
Fantastic, Professor. Very, very well said. So it's about not about man versus machine. Machine is going to be there. Artificial intelligence is going to be there. How do we survive that and make the best of it is what is, I mean, on a lighter note, I remember he talked about consulting industry, right? So one of our clients, one educational institution wanted to do what's usually called as a DPR, or a detailed project report on one of the new schools that they're going to come up with. Usually they call us. So they called me and said, I want this DPR done, and I'll give you so many days and so many other things. And he could have stopped there. Then he said, I asked the same question to ChatGPT, and this is the report that I got. You may want to use this. Suddenly I realized the threat doesn't come from my competitors, very less from there. It actually comes from this unknown ChatGPT kind of artificial intelligence tools that is threatening the thinking that we thought was, our way of doing things. But also, I mean, I always say AI cannot be equated with native stupidity, so I understand what you say. Sir, I'll move to Professor Sandhu. Sir, the pedagogy part of it in higher education institution, not just with technology coming in, technology is just one of the aspects, but in general, there is this big accusation saying we are not ready for industry. The students, when they get out of higher education institutions, are clueless in terms of what is happening there. You've been attempting some of these things in your university. Would like to hear your views on how is this landscape of the journey of higher education changing, and what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you so much. I'll introduce myself. LP happens to be the biggest private university in the country with students from all over every state, every unit territory, plus 54 countries. So we are looking at a very, very vast and a large number of students in the university itself. I'm just going to talk how I'm going to use mySAThi first, because it is the issue of the day. We are usually going to use an adjunct or LQ nest examination, because to gain knowledge by LQ nest and the remaining is by mySAThi. So we are integrating both them, joining them together and using this course of both the tests together. We have also, when Mr. Subramanian visited LPU, we had a long in-depth discussion. We thought that why not use it for the second year students. So we have designed two kinds of syllabi. One is the conventional syllabus, which normally happens in all the universities. One syllabus we have which is very high-end, which is more industry-oriented, with the industry honchos coming and teaching in the university itself. So what we want to do is that we're going to use mySAThi as a tool to differentiate two categories of students, though it's not very proper, but that's the way we're going to look at. So we're training some with the industry, who have the aptitude to go towards the industry. Some who want to be the conventional students, use them as conventional students. So as you said, the NAP has been disruptor with making the education more liberal and less, and the regulations being light and tight. We came up with another disruption which is far, far beyond NAP. We call it Edu Revolution at University. So this is that, it's called 50 rule. So what we do in that is 50% of the student, he learns everything in the classroom. 50% he learns in the field. And I tell you what he learns in the field. And he also earns 50% of the money which he gives to university as fees. So we have 3 50s in that. How do we go about it? See, for this Edu Revolution, for example, products, we have some projects going on. So we have made a corpus of about 7 crores. So any student can apply for a project, we fund the project, and if he earns money out of it, he pays the fees, and also project works. And it substitutes for one of the non-core subjects, and even core subjects, where it degrades to the whole core subjects. We also recognize RPL in a big way. Like person who has already got certification, say in English, or he's got certification in certain subjects, we ask him to appear in an exam within 15 days of him joining the university. If he gets more than A++ grade or A+ grade, we let him go. We said that you utilize that time for going into the field and working on hands-on products. You know that in the university itself, most of the startups are run by the university, by the students themselves. We have Green Mobility, run by students, they earn a lot. All the restaurants are run by them. A mall is run by them. Salons are run by them. And they also in the evening they work in the incubation center which we have there. So we have hackathons going on regularly. How do we, going to help the students in that? If somebody gets an award in hackathon, we give him a grade up. We say that if we give him a little higher grade because that is extra work he has done. If he's very active on social media and he's given a content which is very visible, again we give him grade up. If he does some project which is 100% of what the syllabus is, of that subject, we said, forego the subject, we'll give you the marks according to the project which you've done, and that's the end of the thing. If somebody is good in sports, we give a grade up. Somebody good in cultural activities, we give him a grade up. So what we use is that we don't allow for RPL, we don't say that but the person has to have studied from a course which is certified. It's not that he just says, I've studied English and that's the end of thing. It has to be some kind of certification. Some NEPTL examination could have been there. And even in the this kind of online courses which does not have examination, we conduct the examination and we evaluate and we do it well. So this is a big disruptor. That's really helped us on that. Because all our students, if you go to our incubation center, which is huge, humongous, I tell you, after 6 o'clock till midnight, you won't find a place for the people to stand. They're working so much. Wow. So this is something which is different from what conventional universities are doing. We don't want them to be in the class more than 50% of the time. We want them, I'll give you an example of agriculture. Just before I finish, we got huge lands there. For the agriculture students, we give them land. This is your land. You till it, you grow your vegetables, you sell it, and you earn money and give it to us. And we don't want that you should get money from your parents and come and say they will subsidize you to the extent of 50%. 50% you earn and come to us. Not only they have hands-on training, some is in apiculture, some people is in dairy farming. So these kind of things are happening, and this is something which is unique, and no other university has done it so far. And this is the second level disruption after NEP. Wow. Thank you, sir.
And how many students do you have?
Sir, we have close to 50,000 students in the campus. And that leaves out the ODL and online, which Madam anyway, she's huge among us, but we have lots on that also. But on campus around 50,000, 54 countries, and every state and every union territory of the country. And Punjabis, like my own state, they constitute barely 17-18% of them. So there's a huge number from all over the country. And we have a very interesting saying, sir. 2/3 of the world is water. 1/3 has LP eligibility there.
That is because today morning PPC was mentioning about doing it at scale, right? It's not just the disruption that happens. It's not the way you differentiate, but it's also doing it at scale. But it's very interesting to see that you bring in concepts or, like, for example, apprenticeship, which the government says is important. Rather than going out and seeking apprenticeship, you brought apprenticeship inside your campus. And you brought in entrepreneurship, which is not again outside the curriculum, but inside, an integral part of learning.
Absolutely, sir. Like in our mall, every store is run by a student. So,
I know.
And another thing which I must tell you, sir, if you get a project and we fund it, if he earns money, he gives it back to us, the seed money, remaining profit he takes away. If he loses money, we don't ask money back from him. That's another important part, sir. If we funded, say 10 lakhs rupees, he doesn't earn. At least he's trying to do something, so let's give him a chance. So this is the kind of thing.
Wonderful. I'm sure in the mySAThi testing, if there is something on the financial acumen of students before and after, it will see a significant jump after. No, but what is interesting is, not only have you done all these things, but you also included in the curriculum. It's not something that they do outside it, but it is a part of the curriculum and the credit scores that they get.
That's part of their training and and learning there. So we just see, sir, anybody can read on internet whatever lectures people get. Another thing which I must tell you, sir, because every lecture which is delivered by a teacher, there is recorded and analyzed. Not only for what the content is given, for the replies given to the queries of the students. So this is another unique thing in that university. You know, another university does. Every lecture is recorded and analyzed by experts. So if somebody doesn't reply well to a query from a student, next day he has to reply to the query. He reads and comes back.
The students anyway analyze teachers' lectures, and you may just made it more formal. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Very interesting to see how the pedagogy or how it is being done inside the university is not only diverse, it is integrated as a part of the curriculum, and more importantly, it is being done at scale. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Dr. Sandhu. Let me turn to my friend Maheshi. Mahesh is always somebody who will have a point of view and something that is very deep. So what I'm going to ask him today is that you've been noticing higher education growing, and we are also saying that we want to grow to 50% GR. And how much ever I like or don't like, I need some form of assessing the students before I get them into my institution, right? And I want some of the best. Today I have some choices. mySAThi is giving you a completely different choice. But what is your take on not just these these entrance examination, but the coaching that happens for it? That seems to be a much bigger industry.
So I don't know how I landed up in this situation. I'm normally against coaching institutions. I do think that the day coaching institutions cease to exist, India will prosper. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. See, coaching institutions, essentially, all entrance exams for that matter, what they do is they try to filter out students based on a certain score, which is objective in number. So what does it say when I say my son has got 98% marks and my driver's daughter sitting in Mandi, he's got 75% marks? And that they're unable to deal with, because my son has gone through coaching, he's gone through every process, every thing that makes my son slightly much more adept at giving that entrance examination and getting a better score. So what essentially governments do and what essentially institutions do is that because they don't have the ability to process equity, which is slightly more fairer, they go for transparency because that is objective. 99.9 is better than 99.89 or 99, right? And that, for me, is not good for a society of our kind. It's very easy, and the other thing, see, this is just part of the equity and fairness I'm talking about. Transparency is easier to solve as a problem than equity and fairness. It's much more varied in its colors and dimensions, right? The only thing that I'm very happy, Satya, is that you use the word inclusive and multidimensional. I'm happy that I'm still, there is a bit of a consolation that I'm still a part of it, though I find myself slightly at loggerheads with certain things. The other thing that happens in any entrance examination is it makes the student adept at cracking an examination. So to that extent, you go to any coaching institution, they'll say, yes, chhod dena, ye choice mein nahi aata hai. Is pe pad lena. And so you actually have Kadha, which essentially says, you deal with this 20% syllabus and you'll get 80% marks. And that 80% will get you 99% marks.
Pareto's principle put to use.
Exactly, right. So you actually start perfecting the art of gaming an examination. So again, I'm happy that sir suggested that we'll ensure that gaming is slightly more difficult. So slightly more difficult and impossible are two different things. So I do hope that we deal with that situation also. But I genuinely believe that what is it that an entrance examination can judge a child on, which 12 years of schooling and education could not judge on? What is the miracle? What is the magic wand that an entrance examination has, which a student with unit tests, quarterly tests, half-yearly tests, yearly examinations, failure, detention, 12 years, 155 examinations could not judge the child, and one entrance examination over 3 years could judge the child and say you are good, you are bad, you are not good. So I actually have a serious issue about the way we and again I'm saying the reason this is happening is because it's easy for any government, any establishment, any institution to say, listen, this guy has got 99.99 and this guy has got 99.98, so 99.99 is better than 99.98. It's easier. So transparency is much more easier in a system of this nature. But I do have a problem with any entrance examination. Now, if the entrance exam is there, of course there has to be a coaching institution, so they prosper, they survive, and that, as sir said, is a bigger economy than the institutions themselves. The other thing I'll tell you, which is the data point, I'll leave that right. In 2024, there was this big scam about NEET, where the papers leaked and you had 7 toppers from one single examination center in Faridabad. We broke the story, we actually took out the whole thing saying, how can 7 students from one single center be the topper, right? When we did that, Supreme Court, it went up to the Supreme Court, there were a lot of arguments, and Supreme Court said, release all the data. For the first time in a lifetime, we actually had all data of every single center, every single student, and how they performed. When we did that, we mapped, there were 566 cities in which these exams were conducted, about 4,500 centers. We mapped the 566 cities or towns to the presence of a coaching institution, top 25 we took from their own website, where all they have branches, and we mapped it against that, against 566, right? 235 of them had access to coaching, and 331 of them did not have access to coaching. Of the 566 cities we were talking about. These 331 had 11% 650 plus score, and the 225 had 89% 650 plus score, which enables you to get into a medical MBBS seat. Now, what is the mistake of a child that he or she is born in a place where there is no access to coaching? I think we as a country need to look at it slightly beyond, and that's where I am. See, I understand practicality, I understand pragmatism, but I still need to put up that voice that is not there on the table. And that is that 335 cities for which there is no access to coaching, because of which only 11% could get 650 plus, and these 235 could get in 89% of them because they had access to coaching. Whose mistake is this? That's it.
Pertinent questions, Mahesh. I mean, I can't agree more with you. Pertinent questions. And that is where I like when Mr. Subramaniam and PPC talked about continuous evaluation. mySATHI, one of the things that I heard, Satya, I hope I'm right, is that it's not an evaluation that happens just at one point of time and then we go by that. It is actually the improvement of the student over a period of time. Could be from any different way of learning. It need not be only learning from the curriculum that was defined or certain things that they could be from experiential learning that they had. And that also will reflect in their growth.
No, I'm with you on, I understand that. I'm still trying to go back to my fundamental question. What is it in an entrance examination that you can judge a student on, which is 12 years schooling cannot judge on the student? Or the larger thing is, like I also say this when a lot of edtech companies came in saying we're going to make you employable, right? 12 years of schooling you could, and plus 3 years of graduation, you couldn't make them employable. A 3-month magic wand can make you employable. Why can't you intervene that at the schooling or the college level itself? Same thing, if you have a great assessment, why can't it be a part of your formal education process, and why should it be outside the education process which makes you judge? That's the only question that I have.
Absolutely pertinent, and that's why I see while SAThi being adopted by institutions, then it becomes an integral part of their learning and not a third party that will come and assess and tell you suddenly that you're good, you're bad. But I think the core is, what alternate do I have? If I don't have entrance examination and there are limited seats, I guess it's because I don't have a credible alternate for this. I have to go for some kind of filtering mechanism. Maybe there could be better means of doing it, but I don't think we can escape from a filtering mechanism. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Pertinent questions as always. Mahesh raises those questions that are deep and that we can't forget for many days to come. But you know what? Maybe we have a solution, right? Maybe we have a solution for those who cannot get into the mainline or the mainstream educational institutions and who are like the vast majority, who come from rural India, who perhaps don't have access to these coaching or don't come from great schools, is what we called as the alternate channels. And there is one institution that has done this wonderfully well in the past few years, which is the IGNOU or Indira Gandhi National Open University, which has been one of the reasons why our GER is growing up. Ma'am, I don't know if I can say that. And your institution has been doing a great service in terms of making sure that those who are not so privileged also get access to education. What are your thoughts on how it will impact the future of education?
Good afternoon to all. At the outset, I would like to congratulate Subbu sir and his team at mySAThi for this new venture. I think it can be a game changer, especially when I come from IGNOU. We have completed 40 years, and as everyone is saying, it's the largest university in the world with 3.9 million students on the rolls. So you can understand the scale at what we operate. So any application, any platform that you design may be perfect for IITs, IIMs, any universities. But for us, IGNOU, what do? I think a lot of customization will be required in that case. We are ODL system, but now we are moving on talking about ODDL, Open, Distance and Digital Learning. Technology is what we have been using. It was earlier supplementing. It has now become part and parcel of it. And when we talk about digital education, I think the latest state-of-the-art technologies we have adopted. In fact, we were having, and when we talk about AI, how best we can utilize, there has been a discussion, in fact, I had a discussion with OpenAI team. They were saying that why don't you bring in a concept of agenting university? You even move from a digital university to agenting. So AI-based agents, can they be enablers which can actually handhold the learners in their whole learning pathways? This is something I think we need to explore and see how best it suits our purpose. Talking about actually the programs that we offer, we have more than 350 programs on offer, and there are 3 pathways that we have. We have the knowledge pathway, where actually it leads to teaching jobs or education. We have employment pathways, where we have professional programs like MBA, MCA, all those things. But I think it's high time we incorporate employability when we are talking about. Can we incorporate the skill-based education into higher education? I think that is the provision that NEP 2020 has put in. Earlier, it's actually vocational education and higher education were running parallel, and NEP 2020 talks about integration. And when you talk about integration of skill education at higher education level, that's a real challenge. So just what you do in ITIs may not work. I think for higher education, you have to think differently. So what do you bring in and how do you design the programs? In fact, one of the good examples is we have this Agniveer scheme, and where you won't believe that we have 50% of skill component and 50% of the knowledge component. And that's a success story, and we need to build it further for other applications, for other students as well. That's how we need to go in. And the third part is your third pathway is your entrepreneurship and way how we have entrepreneurs. In fact, we are in discussion with MSME where we can actually think in terms of creating ecosystems for, the learners that we have, which can actually work together and create some, instead of being a job seeker, can become employers themselves. So entrepreneurs, that is there. So as the number matters, I think the mySAThi team has to work with us, think differently, how you can do it. Assessment is really a challenge. I think when we talk about IT-based assessment, it is generally a multiple choice question that one talks about. How do you talk about the 4 C's that Subramanianji was mentioning? How do you integrate? And when you're operating at a large scale, how do you do that? That's going to be a challenge we need to look into. And of course, how we have hand-holding of each and every learner and their learning path. That's going to be a real challenge. But I think challenges bring in opportunities, and we need to work together for that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And many congrats on the great job that your institution is doing. And I'm sure in future it is only going to get further strengthened with technology. Now, I don't want to miss an opportunity, sir, when we have 2 ex-secretaries and 1 member of parliament here on the regulation part. And I'm going to put Professor Rishi on the spot. So where do you think regulations can play a role in increasing the relevance of higher education? What is it that they can change?
I think the biggest arena or opportunity for regulation is the fact that things are changing very fast. Historically, regulation has not kept pace with what's happening outside, and that's going to get even worse now, because with the pace at which technology is changing, pedagogy is changing, employer requirements are changing, any kind of a notion of a static curriculum doesn't make much sense in this kind of a scenario. So to me, the biggest challenge for regulation is to make it possible for institutions to continuously enhance their capabilities and offerings so that they can meet the needs of students and meet the needs of society at large. And this will probably require a completely different approach to regulation than we had in the past. And I don't know whether we are completely ready for that.
Interesting. Yeah, Mahesh.
I want to add, because your question is talking of how do regulators work to make education relevant. It's a very bad
question.
Not a question, but a bad thought. I'm being polite when I said that. See, the thing is this, recently some of the people, including Bharat Garu, he would know this, NCHB came up with a regulation which said that NEET is compulsory for you to do an undergrad program in allied sciences also, 14 curricula. Right? What was the relevance of that? They wanted to make themselves relevant as a regulator. So what they do is they impose a NEET examination for a student who is doing undergrad program, not MBBS. Undergrad program, 14 curricula, nursing, BPT, optometrician, lab technician, BSc programs, because the regulator wanted to make education relevant. You don't need to. This country has survived without all these things, and still babies were born, and we were the most populated country. So don't worry about that, right? The thing is, flexing our muscles to make ourselves relevant is the worst way of dealing with the situation.
So you're saying regulators just should vanish?
I'll give you another example. IOE, Institution of Eminence, what they essentially say is that we'll give you greater autonomy because we see in you the power to become a global rank institution. So they acknowledge that if I give you autonomy, you'll become powerful, right? Or best. They acknowledge that. So the regulators know that they will give you autonomy, you will become world's best. The only reason why regulation comes is there are degree mills in this country. There are people who are selling degrees in this country. There are institutions which are using the power to license, the license to give a degree, to give it to the students without any outcomes. That is where regulator comes in. So regulator must be dealing with institutions which are on the wrong side of the law in terms of student outcomes than dealing with the right side of the law or the student outcomes. That's the only relevance that they can deal with. But don't flex your muscles to kill something that's coming up.
Mahesh, while I agree, if I look at it from the regulator side, I need to deal with all sorts of institutions, right? There are well-meaning institutions, There are those, but at the same, in fact, Professor Sandhu, like, your institution, in some sense, with all these regulations in place, you've decided to do things differently.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that, sir. I was a regulator, so I could talk as a regulator. So when I was Secretary University Grants Commission, it was Subramanian sir who started the categorization of universities. See, there's some rogue universities, some good universities. So we have to put some kind of a check on them. So if they're good universities, they gave them lots of liberty. Like he says, IUE.
I guess that's happening. I don't know, Mahesh, you acknowledge that it is actually happening.
Our own university, it is category 1 university. My former university was also category 1 university. We had all the privileges to decide whatever we wanted to according to the pedagogy, it has to be done. So it's not that regulation is not required. Yes, he's right about this particular commission which has made a mess of allied health sciences. Leave that part of it. Otherwise, the UGC itself has been quite liberal the last few years. That's what I told in my earlier speech also, that it is light plus tight kind of regulation. It's not that tight as it used to be, not that empowering as it was. And UGC officials don't have that much power as they had earlier. So it's okay, you can run it.
He says you are reading it too much. Actually, it is not so bad. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, in fact, talking about regulations, I think ODS system is the worst hit.
Worst hit?
Yeah, so because anything, I mean, you cannot do any lab-based programs, you cannot do this, you cannot do. I think that's where we need to think of. And like the latest hit that he has been talking about, the allied health sciences. So our successful psychology program, it has been closed down. We were getting 18,000 registrations and they were doing well. But it's not that we are only creating clinical psychologists.
Correct.
Those are not just the health workers. There are other pathways that are there which we need to see. I think it's high time we start thinking of not just open university or a digital university or an online institution. Can we think in terms of all institutions, in terms of blended learning, where you can build in all kinds of platforms that are there and best of learning situation can be created.
Yeah, no, I think I just want to add one last point. I think one of the challenges is just going by the comments others made. So far, all institutes of national importance were outside the regulatory framework. In the new bill, they are now into the regulatory framework. Why I'm not at all clear why that's required. I mean, if these are your best institutions, you trusted them all these years and they did a good job, why would you now want to bring them under a regulatory framework? So I think these are questions which need to be looked at.
I know. So there is, the reason why we even brought this topic was, generally when you get into the regulatory framework, then there is a one-hat-fits-all rule. I mean, there is a rule that you can't flout because you'll have to follow the rule for every institution. Traditionally, educational institutions were not governed by that. They were given that autonomy and independence so that they can genuinely produce scholars and people who can think for themselves, which could be impacted by this. But I'm not going to continue this conversation because it might take the whole day. Before we conclude, I know we are running out of time. The curiosity element, the 4 C's, innovation, and creating a whole new generation that is going to be thinking differently, thinking new is the need of the hour. And mySATHI's core objective is how do you create these individuals? Now my question is to all of you, how do we make sure that our future institutions embrace this? One is to, of course, embrace mySATHI, but that is just one part. Like after that, you have a whole sort of things that you need to do. And maybe you need to continuously see if you are moving up in the parameters that we have. So what are some of your suggestions? Let me start with you, Professor Sandhu, in terms of the future of institutions embracing anything that you say now, -- for making sure that we have all these creativities.
Well, that is exactly what I said, that Edu Revolution next disruptor, sir. Anybody who files a patent, any student files a patent also gets an advantage. You have to make them thinkers. You can't make them read the books and just, cram things and pass an examination, go. That's exactly what our university is trying to do, go beyond the cramming part of it, putting everything in practical aspect. And so this is, I tell you an example, and this, sir, in the recent Operation Sindoor, we were supporting the army in a big way. And it was our students who were actually supporting, not the university itself. It's one-to-one contact with them. So they go on doing it. There's lots of prototypes are built by them, which is taken by various companies. So if they do it well, then we give them all the advantages.
So you're just saying don't constrain them in a classroom,
No,
get them out,
yes,
and they automatically blossom into...
They will evolve. They will evolve, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mahesh?
Not much. Actually, I just hope that all these assessment tests somewhere factor in the human factor, which is diversity, really multidimensional, understand the background of the person to give give a measure to that. I'm genuinely against, at least at that level. Let me tell you, I was told that I'm an introvert, so I must not do anything to do with sales and marketing and all. So I did CA, right? It's not that I can't speak. It's just that I was put in a bunch of 20 IIMs and I started learning how to speak in English. It doesn't take rocket science for that. But we are judging students far too early to say you're capable of doing this, you're not capable of doing this, you should not do this. I'm slightly, I think we need to give students a bit more space to evolve and deal with these things.
Very well said. I'm sure, Satya, others are taking note of it, and I'm sure this will reflect in some of what we are doing. Ma'am, what are your thoughts?
I think we need to completely re-engineer our exam systems, because, and also the continuous assessment, what we generally have, even if you look into the assignments that are given, or the term and examination, is the same pattern, the colonial system that we have been following. It's high time, I think, we built in activities into the continuous assessment, built in peer assessment also as part of it, e-portfolio based learning can we bring in, which can be evidence based learning that is happening. We are not using it at all. Can we think in that terms? Can we bring in, can we have gaming also put in? Game based learning is one area where actually we are not thinking of how best we can utilize, and what we design should not be a generalistic design. It should be actually personalized, customized as per individual requirements. So we need to work it in a manner that it helps all. That's what we should look into.
Massification. How do you make sure that every individual is taking? Well said, ma'am. Professor?
Yeah, I think, Satya, I have some suggestion for you. So I think the challenge most of us face when we scale is how do we assess students in creative and other endeavors at scale. So I think one thing you should think about as you're going through this mySAThi journey is, can you help us with tools to do that? I'm just give you a simple example. We launched online BBA in IIM Bangalore a couple of years back. We have 1,000 students in each cohort. I'll openly confess we are constrained to follow conventional testing methods because it's difficult to test 1,000 people. I would much rather test them with more open-ended methods, but how do I do it when my students are not on campus, they're all over the country, and I want to still have a reliable and reasonably objective way of measuring what they are doing. If any progress in this direction would be really helpful.
Oh, thank you, Professor. In fact, I would tend to agree. Assessment is like the holy grail. Like, anything that you assess is what people learn. Anything that you assess is what others on the other side will take as the capability of those who are being assessed. In that context, I always used to wonder, there are learning objectives as to why we learn, and that got a little constrained when you put the boundaries around something called a curriculum, and you said this learning objectives is achieved by having this curriculum. And what happens in educational institutions, and I hate this funny word called question bank. So there is a question bank. That curriculum is further reduced to question bank, and then this 80-20 rule, coaching institute say, within that question bank, I'll tell you. So look at it from the larger learning objectives. I've narrowed it down. The thought was correct, that I want to learn this. This is what I want to be. This is the capabilities that I want to develop. But finally, in practice, maybe because of scale, maybe because of other constraints, it ended up in doing something that is completely counterproductive. And hence, assessment could be that, the place where we can change. I'm so delighted that here is an attempt to change assessment, to make it broad-based, to make sure that it contains things that are not just to the question bank and to the curriculum, but beyond that in terms of the learning objectives. So my kudos, congratulations to all those who are a part of mySAThi, and hopefully this blossoms into something that is the bigger and... Any questions from the audience? Sure.
Satya, is it okay if I ask a question that takes 5 minutes? Okay, great. No, the question is going to be 30 seconds, but I feel like the answer is going to be a little controversial. All right, so see, one of the questions I have with here is, mySAThi is a great initiative. Satya has shown it to us. We have kind of seen the platform. It's an absolutely delightful thing. Subbu sir has, really sat down on the test and seen how you can kind of scale it without any effect on the test. One of the things I think that the panel missed talking about, and it's something that I think is pertinent, is how do universities actually implement this? I feel like if you look at mySAThi, there's so much information, and you're talking about fitment of students into programs, but how do you do it at scale? If I've got like 50,000 apps, how do I actually build fitment for students of mySAThi, figuring out what their strengths are and putting them into programs? I think this is an important thing that we missed talking about today, and I'd love to know the panel's views, given that you all are running enormous institutions. How would you actually implement something
Great.
like
I
this?
think his question is, do you make it a part of the formal evaluation? Do you keep it outside? What's the role of mySAThi in your overall evaluation framework?
Sir, I already mentioned that we primarily want to use it after the 2 semesters for evaluation to differentiate 2 kinds of students. Somebody who's beyond the normal thinking, the fast learners, and the ones which are little conventional kind of, so that we know because they are primarily psychometric tests also involved in this, so we would know what the person wants. So then we train them according to their whatever the aptitude is. This is our first aim. So we are not substituting it as, for LPU Nest, which is our entrance exam. We are adding it to it as adjuvant to it. We are maybe 30% score of mySAThi and 70% score of LPU Nest, because we get scholarship on that basis. So we want domain knowledge also. We want the mySAThi test also to be done. So we're using on 2 different parameters, one to evaluate the existing students, one the incoming next batch which is going to be with us.
Good question. I guess it's evolving. I guess we'll find means of integrating that and giving it the right kind of place for doing that. In the interest of time, any other questions before we close? Lovely. Srini, we are on time. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you so much, and thanks for a wonderful audience and also eminent people on the stage. It's been great.
Thank you very much, Nana, for Narayanan, for moderating. May I request all of you to be on stage for a couple of minutes? May I request Gautam Puri to come to felicitate the entire panel, starting with Mr. Nana, then Professor Rishikesh Krishnan, Srimati Uma Kanjilal, Mr. Mahesh Perry, and Sri Jaspal Singh Sandhu. Thank you very much, Narayanan. Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Rishikesh Krishnan. Thank you very much, Srimati Uma Kanjilal, Vice Chancellor, IGNOU. Thank you, Mahesh Perry, for always bringing in that difference to the panels and all thought processes. Thank you, Sri Jaspal Singh Sandhu. I can see a huge difference that could happen at LPU with you at the forefront. Thank you very much. Thank you, GP. Thank you very much. We quickly move to the next panel. This panel is on, this panel looked at the university curriculum and getting students and their skill sets, etc. The next panel goes a step further, and we have very eminent set of panelists. May I now invite a leading HR leader in the country and consultant who has been in this space for almost 4 decades, Sri Bimal Rath. Bimalji, please come onto the stage. May I request, please. May I request Mr. Hitesh Oberoi. We all know Naukri and one of the co-founders of Naukri, Mr. Hitesh Obrai. And I also must share, I had the privilege of sharing the classroom and learning spaces with him. We were together at IIM Bangalore in the same class. Thanks, Hitesh, for coming. And we have, because we're looking at breaking the barriers, the whole education system, mobility, employability, that will not have boundaries. If we see Europe, because of the dwindling population, Europe is looking at whole world, especially India and African countries, for huge manpower. So we have a very eminent co-panelist here, His Excellency Ambassador Peter Munyeri from Kenya. Big hand, please. Bimalji, there are two more panelists who will join. They're on the way. Unfortunately, a lot of barriers on the road. So, Manish is there. Manishji, please come. Manish, Mr. Manish Kumar, former CEO NSDC, is here. He is the person behind the skills movement of this country. Thank you. Thank you. I was thinking that you were still to arrive. Thank you very much. Thank you, Manishji. Geetika Dayalji will be joining you. She's just about to reach. Over to you, sir.
Okay. So, firstly, I think congratulations to mySAThi team, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this movement. Like was said, I think, we are talking about the other end of the pipe, which is that, you push people through, in a way, the education system in some form or the other, schooling, and then college, and then higher education, and so on and so forth. And we are the takers, in a way. We are the guys who are, going to take these people, build careers for them, hopefully, with the individuals, etc. So I think before I, hear the views from my panelists, and all of them have got deep experience in different areas, so I'm sure we'll get lots of different perspectives. But there are four elements I wanted to talk about before I invite each of them. So firstly, I think, from an employer point of view, more and more employers are looking at skills as against a degree. And I think this is important to understand, because in most companies we talk to now, they're not even saying competency framework. And I think Dr. Krishnan was talking about consulting as an industry, but we are seeing that across industries, that people are saying, tell me about a specific skill with this person as which they can come and deploy. I think it's been there for a while. It's becoming more and more prevalent now. That's one. The second issue I think industry faces is the cost of attrition. People join and then they leave very quickly. They're unhappy. So there's a cost of attrition, either staying and not being engaged, or just leaving and moving on to another company or another job. And that happens because the fitment of the person to the job or the company is not particularly great. One could argue that what are the selection techniques, etc. we're using, but a lot of it is also to do with what does the person come into the system with, kind of a thing. I think the third element is about careers. And if I go back 20, 30, 40 years, when I started my career, you could pretty much say a lot of my batchmates would pick up maybe 2 companies in their 35 years. My father's job would be 1 company and 1 function, maybe 45 years kind of a thing. Now you're talking about, if you think about it like this, 21 to 25 years of education, given life expectancy, maybe 50 years of working, and in that 50 years, you're actually going to have maybe 10 different career curves, because that's the way the world is actually going, okay? So I think that's an issue to actually contend with from a capability of the individual, learning capacity of the individual, and new skills he or she needs to pick up. And I think the final one, which is an important aspect, is that companies will and organizations will go through a lot of change in the next 5, 10, 20 years, etc., etc. Most employers, I can say, don't want to let people go. Okay, they would rather have people be in the company, pick up new skills, and actually move to new jobs or new projects and so on and so forth. Nobody likes to actually get a trained people or a stable employee actually go. They would say, okay, can you learn new skills? So that whole element of learning and ensuring that, people stay with the company while at the same time moving very quickly and flexibly into new projects, new roles, new department. I think those are the 4 aspects which I hear from a lot of CEOs and other senior leaders when we do consulting kind of work. So giving that backdrop, let me just, maybe start, Manish, from your end, maybe from a skills perspective, right? So if you're looking at the employment landscape in general and saying that we need to increase employability, what kind of a framework would you look at coming out of the education system which would actually help that from a skills perspective?
Thank you for that question. If I look at the current university education systems, these were designed for Industry 2.0, and that's way back in 1870s. Since 1870, the world has seen Industry 3.0 and Industry 4.0, but we continue to pursue the same old batch processing systems of how we run our universities, not only in India, but globally. And there has been concerns not just within our country, but even outside, on what ways we need to change how we impart education. So my observation, interacting with both industry as well as with candidates, has been that people in the industry often look for competency-based education. They are looking at what is it that I'm dealing with currently, and do you come to me with those competencies that I need immediately? Another thing which has happened to industry is the rapid changes that comes to technology post 1990 with the world changing because of internet, general purpose technology, and we have a new one which is the GPTs. That's a general purpose technology because of LLMs that's happening now. So two very quick ones, which means that the industry also actually tries to adapt to new technological changes and needs people coming from universities who can quickly adapt and who knows actually from day one what to deal with and how to respond to that new technology. So I think that's the challenge at the moment and requires flexibility in thinking right from top at the leadership level in universities, at the faculty level, and also I guess the need to tweak the whole system of how you create talent. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask that same question, His Excellency, because would this be the same in the international, you've traveled a bit and of course you represent a different country, so would you see the skills problem as very similar?
Yeah, I would want, I would want to say that perhaps one of the biggest learnings I have had, because my background is actually not necessarily what you are seeing here. I've ran banks at CEO level, and I've seen the disruptions happening. And from the moments we were trainees in a bank like Barclays to date, a lot of things have changed, but the fact is sometimes the employer lags behind. Because career management is not necessarily the responsibility of the employer. Personally, I have worked for 5 banks. I'm in public sector. But the reality today is that this technology has created a completely different kind of a product, right from primary to university to what we are now handing over to the employers. So sometimes the employers are actually lagging behind the kind of the population which or from where the pool is being developed from. And that problem actually cuts across several sectors, whether private, whether public, so that the actual expectations in terms of products from the university to the employer is quite different. Let me give it a kind of some practical approach on it. You've got an institution largely that is still held by its policies and controls and frameworks, and it is lagging behind in terms of adapting to the technology. And then you've got universities and technical institutions and a younger population that have completely embraced the way technology is going. So I think the real issue in terms of at what point do we have effectiveness around creating the proper skill sets is we need to reassess and ask hard questions also in terms of the way the labor market moves and the pace of adaptation of the labor market. We are here talking about these platforms. I would have loved if this kind of a forum, for instance, asked itself, where then does this AI thing leave the human brain? Because if you ask me, there's a lot that is going to change in terms of the education system and in terms of the employer as far as the AI is concerned. And nobody has been able to give us this real answer in terms of, will it be a convergence, is it an overtake, and where shall we be? So I think it's a very good debate, but the actual skill sets and capacities largely depend in terms of, you've taken these people, they are well prepared in terms of the technology side. You as an employer, where are you in terms of now creating the career pathway? And let's not lie around ourselves. The current population we have will not necessarily be tied for the years I have had. Even 5, 10 years will be a hard task. I think the issue is to manage them, get the very best out of them, and then they move on. And that is how the world has actually been able to move at the paces for which it has been moving. Because I know we talked about creativity, the issue around innovativeness. I mean, these guys are slightly different because they've come up in a different world. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I think that actually ties in very nicely with the, several people, I think, talked about earlier in the morning about mySAThi being a empowering, platform and a tool rather than a excluding tool, if I may use that word, right? But Hitesh, let me go to you with a slightly different question, right? So, I don't know how many jobs Naukri has given or how many people have. Do you have a number in millions or billions or whatever it is? But, more important, I think the key issue around, education and the mismatch with industry still is that, industry always keeps saying, people like us who are from the industry side keep saying, I have 10 jobs open or 100 jobs open or 2,000, I don't find people. You open a job in India and you will get 2 lakh applications, but none of them are actually relevant, right? And this is a big challenge because this is not a new challenge. This is a topic we've been debating for maybe a few decades at least, if not more. In your perspective, what is it that can be done in early assessment, whether it is at a school level, college level, this thing, so that by the time people are actually coming at this level where they are ready to be employed, what will help in actually bridging this gap a little bit, if not fully?
No, you're absolutely right. We've been running Naukri for almost 3 decades now. And the problem is the same. I mean, if you go talk to employers, they say, listen, on the platform right now, if you go to Naukri, you'll see 500,000 jobs, right? And the employers always complain, listen, we have jobs, but we are not able to find the right people. And job seekers, on the other hand, complain, where are the jobs? We are not able to get the right jobs for ourselves. And this has been a problem forever. And even today, there are jobs on Naukri where if you post a job today, within a few hours, you may get a few hundred applications, a few thousand applications. And there are jobs for which, you may not get even 10 applications because some skills are very hard to get. So what's happening here? I think the problem starts with, if I have to sort of reflect on it and think about it, it starts with education. And it starts with primary education and secondary education. And I think what ends up happening in India is that we don't correct the problem at source. And then we look for quick fixes in the end because there's not enough time. And so once the person's already hit class 12 or it's too late. If the person has not picked up basic reading skills or writing skills or math skills, it's too late maybe to sort of now then say, okay, let's do something very quickly, put him through a 3-month program or a 6-month program or a 1-year program and teach him something which will get him a job. I think so there's, I think, disproportionate focus on higher education. There are 5,000 engineering colleges in this country. We run a portal called shiksha.com also. So there are 40,000 colleges and maybe 1,000 universities, by the way, in this country. And there are some 2,000 MBA colleges. There are 5,000 engineering colleges. 1 billion engineers are graduated every year. A few 100,000 MBAs are graduated every year. How many of them actually learn? They get a degree, but how many of them actually learn something in college, right? Which can be applied at the workplace? Very few. right? So there are 2-3 disconnects in my mind. One is, I don't think we are doing a good job of primary education, secondary education at the school level. A lot of the jobs actually in India, which are taken up by people who are MBAs and engineers, actually can be done by people who graduate from school, after school. That's the skill level required, right? But because there are too many people, people say, Acha, after a while they say, we need a PhD to do these jobs. Right now they say we need MBAs to do these jobs, right? So because there are just but you still find it hard to get people. The other problem I see is, at a higher education level, there's a disconnect between, I don't think institutions know what industry wants. They're not connected to industry, right? So I don't see, for example, they continue to teach what they've been teaching forever. The curriculum doesn't change, the pedagogy doesn't change, industry may change, what industry needs may change, but they continue to teach what they've been teaching forever. I don't know whether they should be blamed for it or the regulator should be blamed for it. I don't understand the education system. But things don't change. So what is being taught in MBA colleges today was perhaps being taught 20 years ago also, maybe 40 years ago as well. What is being taught in Delhi University today was perhaps being taught 30 years ago as well in Delhi University. Curriculums don't change, nothing changes, right? So there's a disconnect, and there's very little movement between industry and academia. The academics don't work with industry. How many professors in educational institutions have some connection with industry? Hardly any. How many folks in industry go and actually teach at colleges? Hardly any, right? So there's a disconnect there as well. And as a result, what ends up happening is that when, and you mentioned attrition also somewhere, when students end up working, how do companies think? Companies say, "Acha, theek hai yaar, if this guy has been to this kind of college, and these colleges are hard to get into, there must be something." So they are seen more as selection institutions rather than teaching institutions. And therefore, if this person has cleared the JEE, or if he cleared the CAT, yaar, kuch to aata hoga. Right? So let's hire them at least. They'll learn. They'll figure it out, right? So that's how it works, right? So I think these are some, and I don't see people talking about these issues even today, right? There's a lot of talk around, autonomy for higher education institutions, but who's trying to fix primary education? Who's trying to fix secondary education? Nobody. Nobody talks about it. And if you don't fix, and if somebody sort of reaches class 10 and doesn't know how to multiply or divide, what will you do after that? So these are some of the, I think if I step back and think, these are the real challenges. And what ends up happening, therefore, is companies sort of say, okay, let's go to these tried and tested institutions. We've been hiring from these 100 colleges or 200 colleges for the last 10 years. Mostly it's worked for us. Let's go and get these kids. And they have the basic aptitude. Baaki to hum sikha denge. Wo seekh jayenge, right? And a lot of people end up realizing after the first 6 months that they're in the wrong job. So they are tried. Attrition rates are highest in year 1. Right? Or year 2 at max. Most people are tried in the first 1 or 2 years because they end up in the wrong job. And then companies also realize, okay, we made the wrong hire. They live with that cost of attrition. They will live with that cost of having get the wrong hires and so on and so forth. And then inside the company, people sort of learn as they get taught and by doing the.
So they pick up the skills as they go along, kind of a thing. Yeah.
That's what happens today.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. And I'll come back to you with a follow-up question, Nitesh, but let me go to Geetika, who's joined us a little bit late. But thanks for being here, Geetika. So, one of the issues which a lot of people are now talking about is technology taking away a lot of standardized jobs. Okay, and some of it is happening. One could argue how much it will happen. There are different stories and all that. But what it also leads to is that there is an opportunity for a lot of people to become entrepreneurs if they're reasonably educated, have some skills, etc., etc. But do you think that we are actually enabling the system of building entrepreneurs by really investing in the right people? What are we really investing in from a, and I'm using the assessment framework saying, let's say that I've got 10 rupees to give to somebody, he's got a business plan. What are those 4 or 5 things I'm really assessing for, which would then say, okay, looks like this guy can make it a success in that 2% and take it to maybe 5%, because anyway 98% ventures fail, right? So.
No, absolutely. And thank you for this question. Thank you for having me, and my apologies to my panelists and to the audience for joining a bit late. I've been running from another event in the morning. But, absolutely very interesting question. And one of the key things that we try to do is to reduce the startup mortality rate, to create better founders who are skilled and who are capable of running successful scaled up ventures. But one of the key things why I felt very passionate about being here today, especially, is because I think we're at a very remarkable time. This is the early stage of a very remarkable journey, and when you look at it from the startup perspective, the question you asked is, very, very relevant, because in any case for startup founders, talent, or finding the right talent has been one of the biggest pain points. It is still among the top 3 challenges that they face. And that's a real paradox, because at the one end there is so much unemployment, and at the other end of it you're not able to find the right talent. But the challenges in the startup ecosystem of having the right access to talent, whether it is for the founder or for the team, is one step further, even more complex. Because at one end, employability is an issue, soft skills employability, which we are all aware of, which we have all been grappling with and trying to fix in different ways at various levels. But at the same time, this evolving technology that one has to somehow be able to keep abreast with, not taught in colleges when you were educated and came up, but you need access to that. You need people who are smart enough to be able to adapt to that. The other aspect, even within the startup ecosystem, is also, even beyond the skill set, is the mindset. Because the adaptability of people who are working or getting hired by startups, you have to be high risk appetite, you have to be flexible, you have to be able to adapt, you have to be able to pivot and reinvent with the evolving situation as well. Now that is again something that does not necessarily come from our standard traditional school system. In schools we are, I don't know, solving for the wrong problem probably, but that is something where, along with skill set, the mindset aspect comes in. Finding and retaining talent for startups, again a big challenge, because very few people have the understanding of the compensation model. How does equity and ESOPs and all of that work? They are used to the standard salary system. But here again, the ability to actually educate them. So I think when we look at, and when you look at the new net jobs being created, they are being created by startups, not so much by the corporates. They are coming from the startup. In fact, you will find a lot of laying off by corporates, but it is the startups who are actually hiring. But when they are hiring, we need people who are not only employable with the right skill sets, they have to have technical knowledge, they have to have technological knowledge, but with the right knowledge of how does the compensation work, what are the rewards of working in a startup, and what mindset do I need. And one of the new things that have come up is this Gen Z, because they are the new talent pool. I think about 27% are Gen Z, who are now, a completely different, I shouldn't say completely different animal, but whatever word you want to use for them, because they are extremely smart, but they have a completely different style of working, completely different style of thinking. So how to make sure that they have the right ability to be hired by people? And if we can't train them to be employable, then can we as founders be equipped with the skill sets of getting work done by them? Because they're a great asset, they're a great advantage, and especially for companies who are catering to Gen Z as their consumers, the ability to talk to them in their way. One of the bigger advantages with Gen Z is also that they are also innovation or technology first. They are more familiar, they are more comfortable with AI and all the other aspects than most of us are. So, but harnessing them and how they will add value and how they will be employable is yet another. So that's why I'm saying it's a remarkable time for us. Like internet had changed a lot of things, AI will change a lot of things, and this new demographic as well. So we have to consider how we can bring it all together. It's a huge mountain to climb, challenge to solve, but this is probably the best room of people that are working in this area or are best equipped to do that. So yes, so my two bits.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Geetika. I think, you listed down so many things that I've forgotten now where you started, but certainly, there's a whole list of things to become a successful entrepreneur, which is fine. And, some of that, of course, you can, in a way, test early, if I may use that word. Some of it, I think you test as the person goes along because, things like, for example, resilience or the ability to quickly learn and pivot and, move on from one thing. These are not, I'm not sure how much of that you can actually test. Some of it you can, I guess, But let me lead that. So, His Excellency Muniri, sir, you talked about working for 5 banks, okay, and then moving into a diplomat kind of a role, if I may call it that, right? But if you think about a career in the future where the person may actually, because some industries will shut down, or jobs will change, let's say an account manager job could become a very different thing in the same industry, or could. So if you think about a career, a little bit unlike yours, saying, now this person has to do, let's say, 10 different jobs over a 50-year or 40-year period, and every time he or she has to pick up a different set of skills. What do you think will be the core of this person? What are the 2 or 3 adjectives you'll use for this person, saying, this is, I think, the kind of person who will succeed in a 40-year career?
I think I would want to look at the world into the future in terms of when we say Bharat 2047. So what kind of a country will India be, or Kenya being a middle-income country in the next 30 years? And you find then that inside there, you will find that there will be key drivers in terms of sectors. And those key drivers then in terms of sectors and how this country will sit, we get down now into creating the people who we will be taking to those sectors. And that is where it is very hard, extremely hard to envision a future where technology will not be significant. And I think that future has even arrived. Because today, even sectors that ideally were lagging behind the rural sectors, if it is agriculture, you find that technology and AI is already inside there. So for me, I would look at that kind of a person irrespective of the sector, fitting inside the bigger agenda of the Republic, but that technology, irrespective of the career one will be in, technology will be key.
Okay, great, thank you. Manish, let me come to you since you have a background in the whole skills area and so on and so forth. So if you were to assess, let us say, for skills at different levels, people going into college, then higher education and this thing, one of the arguments I've been hearing from several employers actually is that, can I do an assessment and actually hire this person directly? Why does he or she need to actually go to, I think partly the point Hitesh was making, that, why does he or she need to actually go into higher education at all? Maybe they can study on the side, they can do short-term courses. If they want to, they can study further. But the reality is that as long as I've tested somebody for the relevant skills and the person can do this particular job, why not just take them in early enough? What's your view on that? Because, and I know that there are a lot of higher education people here who may say, this is not a particularly great argument, but let me hear Manish on that.
So quite an interesting one, and it's basically where, let's say, things intersect, the past and the present, or the future is intersecting. If you look at why we look for degrees, why do we end up having an MBA? It's a kind of signal which you send to the market, saying that there is somebody who's done MBA from a particular college, likely to be good. So it's a kind of signaling value that comes from a degree. Whether that degree is actually useful for the employer is a very different question, as you rightly said. And when the employer, and that employer, if he or she wants to hire a person, might actually be looking for a completely different attributes. So therefore, having assessments which enables discriminating who fits into your needs, not because that person is good or bad, simply because that's your need. Yeah. I think you remind me of a book called The Tyranny of Merit, by Michael Sanders, a very good book if anybody wants to read that. That how by pigeonholing people into somebody who is very talented because you come from certain background, you end up actually making sure that a lot of people who might be really good are of the self. And therefore, having an alternative way of assessing whether somebody fits into your job, not good or bad, that's a different issue altogether, but is that person really suitable to your specific need? I think that's where we need to head and become more specific into the future. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And yeah, we are hearing that from a lot of places that can that be an alternative path that you have such strong assessments and they're testing for the right things, you know, quote unquote, right for that particular work or job or that industry or company or whatever it is, and then leave the education piece to the person because, you know, the person will then choose what skills he or she needs to sort of pick up along the way kind of a thing. But Hitesh, that, you know, and I'm going back to some of the stuff you said. So let's assume for a moment that, you know, whatever problems we have in the primary and the secondary education remain. You know, let's hope not. But let's say that, you know, there is a generation which is already currently there, which is already in the colleges and so on and so forth, right? So if I have to take a very hard look at and, you know, take a lens and say, I think that, you know, these are the 3 or 4 things which will really make people happy and successful. And I'm using the word happy and successful very separately in a career. You've seen a lot of people going through that journey, right? So what are those 3, 4 things you would really look for and say, you know, I think in a corporate career, assess somebody at, let's say, 21. And if these are the things you are able to see a little bit, then hopefully this person will actually lead a good life.
Yeah, so, you know, one, I think, I'm sure everybody understands that things are going to change dramatically over the next few years thanks to what's happening because of AI. And it's going to be it's very hard for even me to predict the future. But, you know, when, you know, I think some things don't change, right? So when I hire people or when we hire people, we look for 4 or 5 things beyond the experience, beyond the degree, beyond everything else. So one is energy, right? Does this person, you know, have the desire, does fire in the belly, you know, energy, desire to make a difference, desire to make an impact? Is he going to sort of, does he want to do something? Does he really want to achieve something? Or does he just want a job, right? So I think that people who have energy, of course you have to channelize energy in the right direction, but people who have energy always end up doing a lot more than people who just turn up for work, right? So that's one. The second thing we look for is, of course, smarts. And when I say smarts, I don't just mean IQ or grades, you know. Smarts could mean people smarts, would mean business smarts, would mean IQ, street smarts. You know, can the person get the job done? Does he get it, right? Will he be able to figure things out? Is he smart enough to know who to leverage, when to do what, et cetera, et cetera? It's not just IQ. A lot of people, you know, I've worked with lots of people over my career. I've seen a lot of people, and I went to IIT Delhi. I've seen a lot of IITians fail. I've seen a lot of IIM graduates fail. I've seen a lot of other people from other unknown institutions succeed because they had all-round smarts. They could figure out what needed to be done at that point in time. So I think that's the other thing you sort of try and assess. Kar lega kya? Will he get the job done, right? The third thing, and this is very important for us, is the integrity. You know, because it's because if you get a guy who's super smart and has a lot of energy, but has no integrity, you know, you could end up in the wrong place as an organization, right? So you want people whose values match with your values of the organization. And for us, integrity is important. So sincerity, integrity, honesty, ethics, you know, you try and assess whether, you know, you don't want somebody to take like shortcuts to get stuff done, you know. That may be also very smart, but, you know, that's not what we believe in as an organization. So that's the third thing, you know. And the fourth thing, and, you know, I think you mentioned technology. So, you know, like, there are people who are scared of technology. I've seen that. You know, you want people who are not scared of technology. It's not as if they need to know everything. They don't need to know how to code, etc. But they should not be scared of technology. They should be like, "Theek hai yaar, we'll figure it out as we go along." Technology is something we can leverage to get the job done. And the last thing, which I think is going to become increasingly important going forward, is the ability to learn new things as you go along, because things are going to change, right? And what was relevant 5 years ago may not be relevant 3 years from now or 4 years from now. Like I was talking to somebody in the morning, and I was like, yeah, we have a lot of engineers who code in our organization because we do a lot of product development work. I was like, yeah, how serious is this now Claude Code business, right? I mean, what are we doing about it internally? And they were like, the old code, we'll still need the programmers tools, because only they understand the code. It's going to take a long time for the AI to understand what we've done, because even we don't understand sometimes, right? But all the new code, right? I mean, if you're doing a startup inside, I mean, it's very easy to sort of code now using AI, right? You don't need as many programmers as you would have needed earlier. So a lot of the new stuff, and a lot of startups, for example, will now do, coding like this. So now you may have graduated 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and you maybe spent a lot of time learning some programming language. Programming language may not be what you need now. You may need a lot of the other stuff you picked up, but you may not now need to adapt and sort of say, this is how I'll do it going forward, because things are changing. So this nimbleness, this adaptability, this ability to learn new things and say, listen, I need to learn. A lot of people give up, right? And especially as they approach middle age, ki yaar ho gaya, and let's get freshers to do the job. It may work for a while, but after a while, then you become redundant. Right, so I think that's the other thing which will become increasingly important going forward.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Hitesh. Okay, so in the interest of time, if there are any questions, 1 or 2 questions, and then I'm going to ask each of the panelists to see if they want to respond to it. Yes, please. Can I get a mic there? Yeah, please. 1 minute, Bharatji, 1 minute. I just.
So it's more, I can talk loud.
Sure, please.
No, it is more of just an intervention on the excellent debates that you've had. I am seeing the element of emotional intelligence missing in the whole process. The society as a whole has changed. From the time we had 6 or 7 siblings in a family to a single child, there is problem in managing human relations, including caring, sharing, or the relations within the organization. That part is also affecting performances in organizations. That's one, and it is also affecting the management of personal relations, which goes along in a corporate life of anybody. The second thing is about the recruitment. There are a lot of levels that have got added on to the whole recruitment process. The candidates suddenly feel disconnected. They call it ghosting nowadays. It's affecting, people are giving up after repeated trials, and you are not even given a feedback why it is happening. That's another aspect I wanted.
Great, thank you for those comments. And Shri Bharatji, I think, had a question, and then I'll come to you, sir. You want to answer that? Okay, he just had a comment. That was not a question, but feel free. Yeah, please.
Regarding the emotional aspect, I'm Dr. Sandeep Vora. I'm founder of Nobody No Tension Healthcare and attached to Manav Rachna University. And Satya has been very kind. We are actually integrating the globally unique concept of stressometer in this app. And I would say that God has been kind. I've got world's first patent for digital mental health screening. And India is the first country which has got this. And our aim is actually to analyze whatever has been talked since the morning, just include the emotional wellness component, because that is the most important, most crucial, and missed by everybody, including developed countries. So I think by connecting with mySAThi app, we are already crossing the basic baseline of what the developed countries don't have. Because I have 35 years experience of seeing students from IITs, IIMs, schools, colleges, topmost achievers. Why is it the suicide rates are high? Because if you see, why are we losing the actually cream, the students of IITs? The reason is very simple. They struggle. The way it has been discussed in the past, previous session, they struggle, they do the best. And ultimately, when they go in the IITs, they were the toppers in their school, and they see amongst the toppers, they are nowhere. Unless until we have a system to actually analyze and integrate it with what mySAThi app is doing. So I think with this integration, we'll be able to cover up for everything.
Thank you, Vora Sahab. Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Hi. My question is to both Manishji and Hiteshji. There is an information asymmetry between educators and recruiters and intermediaries. So can there be, and I'm ignorant, so correct me if I'm wrong, Can there be a platform in the nation that aggregates data on where are the job roles, where is the recruitment happening, what are the skill gaps? And if that can be published both regionally and nationally, it becomes a source of truth for that state, for the institutions within that state, to identify what programs are dying, what programs are going up. Within those programs, what are the skill gaps that employers are saying? Because then it forces both the government and institutions to adapt. Without this information, all of us are playing blind. We're going a lot by hearsay, that computer science is in demand, so let's add capacity for computer science. But we don't know that we are walking off a cliff and we're going to suddenly fall someday. So would love to hear thoughts on that. Thanks.
Yeah, I can. So, by the way, that platform is Naukri.com. So there are, like I said, there are 500 million jobs. For the last 18 years, we've been publishing Naukri JobSpeak. It's a monthly index of where the jobs are, right? By industry, by functional area, by city, by years of experience. I've shared these reports with several ministries, with Niti Aayog. Ministers have spoken about it at times. And, it's also tells you the jobs are growing or falling, and, which sectors are right now doing well, which sectors are likely to do well going forward. So this data is available, actually. And if somebody makes an effort, you can also sort of, make it available in a much more sort of friendly format, if that's what people need. So, it's not as if the data is not available. And it's available by city, it's available by industry, it's available by functional area. Sales jobs are growing, sales jobs are growing. If coding jobs are falling, that it's happening. If machine learning jobs are growing today, that, right? Not only that, we also have, often have data on salaries and what's happening to salaries across all these sectors and so on and so forth. I think what is missing is that, even the data is, but nobody cares. People continue to teach what they're teaching. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but it just continues. And the moment I've seen, and I'm actually associated with a university, with 2 universities, Ashoka and Plaksha, and I've been working very closely with Plaksha as a founder and trustee. The founders of Plaksha are from industry. The faculty is all academics, right? I think there's a lot of value when these founders talk to the academics, and when these academics connect to these companies, right? They get to know what industry needs, Indian industry needs, right? I went to IIT in the 1990s. I passed out in 1994. One guy in 1994, IIT Delhi, civil engineering. I think only one person got a job in India in 1994. Most went for higher education or overseas or civil services or whatever. So even the highest education, the best institutions in this country are not connected to what industry needs. It's changing slowly. It's changing. There are now centers of entrepreneurship in a lot of universities. People are being called for guest lectures, but it's still industry going there. I don't think the academics are reaching out to industry, even now. That's still not happening. The moment that starts to happen, things will change.
Thanks. So I'll just add to what he said. If you look at our country, about 80% of our employment is actually in the informal sector. Only 20% is basically formal. And this 80% is something which is where a lot of government focus goes. It's quite challenging. It's not that easy. And partially the responsibility lies with all of us. So for example, it may sound a little harsh, but the fact is that each of us have a driver. How many of us actually give a formal document to our driver? Or to the domestic worker who is in our home? So it's a kind of social, issue in a way, which also requires alertness, maybe awareness within the system itself, society, that you want to resolve this issue, you have to start from the bottom, not look at it just from the top. There's data at the top. Just talking of data, if you look at a person in 1800, the amount of data that person dealt with, we deal in 1 day's time today, which essentially means we live 28,000 lives in a way of 1800. Our brain hasn't really gone much bigger. We remain the same in terms of our brain capacity. So I think we live in a very complex world as of now. And one of the advantages we have is technology, which we could use for ensuring that there's more communication between government and the private. And I think there is a kind of mistrust on both sides. Let me be honest, I've worked on both sides. So I've seen distrust within private about government and distrust within government about private. Very strong. and it's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. Because if the country has to grow, both has to understand that they have really, really important roles to play. Wealth creation doesn't happen without private sector, and the systems don't remain stable without the government. And therefore, the respect for both of them to basically truthfully speak to each other and then understand each other's point of view is very, very important. So I guess partially society's responsibility, but also from both sides, I think the need for more, let's say, partnerships.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you. So, I know before Srini, you come and stand here, let me just thank my panelists and then hand it over to you. But thank you for, I'm sorry, ma'am, we'll take it later if you can. I'm sure, when we break, you can take that question with whoever you want to. But thank you very much for your, insightful as well as very passionate views, I must say. So thank you very much, and Srini, over to you.
Thank you very much, Bimal, and thank you to all panelists. Hitesh, His Excellency, Manishji and Geetika, thanks for engaging the audience with a very deep, insightful interaction. May I now request Honorable Ambassador Venu Rajamani to please come on stage to felicitate the all panelists. Thank you very much, Ambassador Venu. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Geetika ji, Manish ji, Hitesh. Thank you, Bimal ji. The last, before we move, may I request Satya, Mr. Subbu sir and Partha sir to please grace the stage before we wind up. Please come. May I request Satya to felicitate the brain and brawn and everything behind the entire mySATHI initiative with their expertise and deep insights for over decades. They have been there working 24 hours to make mySATHI possible. Mr. Subbu sir and Partha sir. We look forward to you both of you scoring centuries in changing the world, the humanity. Thank you very much for facilitating. Sanjay ji, aaiye.
Subbu sir was saying that we are all internal people, why to me? I said they have decided to give it to you, not to me. So Sanjay is rescuing me.
Thank you, Sanjay.
You've done a great job. We are so very, very proud.
Thanks, Sanjay. Thank you very much. Thank you. May I now request Sujata to come over to do the final honors of vote of thanks. Thank you, Sujata.
All right, so I know lunch awaits all of us. Respected dignitaries, esteemed higher education leaders, CXOs, school principals, impact and CSR champions, I like to call you all dear colleagues also. Good afternoon, firstly. And we've had a very action-packed day, I think, long day, inspiring, right from unveiling of mySAThi platform to powerful messages from our stalwarts, to rich panel conversations on higher education and workforce readiness. So thank you all for being a part of it. And on behalf of mySAThi team and mySAThi Foundation, I extend our deepest gratitude to each one of you for being here today to witness and celebrate unveiling of mySAThi. This is a readiness platform, a dedicated readiness platform for talent in higher education, meaningful jobs, and purposeful entrepreneurship. So built in India, but for talent across the world. And your presence, wisdom, shared belief in this vision continues to inspire us immensely and will strengthen our conviction that mySAThi can become a true movement for equity and future readiness. Heartfelt thanks to all our distinguished speakers, panelists, partners, collaborators, and the incredible team that's worked behind the scenes to make all this possible, not only today, last 2 months, but the entire year. So as we move forward towards Viksit Bharat, we look forward to your continuous guidance and most importantly, your partnership in taking mySAThi into institutions, into schools and to students at scale. Thank you once again and wishing you a warm launch and lunch conversation and a wonderful evening ahead. Jai Hind.